comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday,
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Monday, the king of breakfast TV is back. That's right, Britain's favourite TV host, Eamonn returns to Britain's hottest breakfast programme. Breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, good morning. The Chancellor prepares to tell the country to accept hardship or face ruin.
Yes, Rachel Reeves is gearing up to speak at the Labour conference on how her party will rebuild Britain.
But as more tales of Labour's freebie habits come to light, could its week to shine be overshadowed?
A GB News exclusive for you this morning, as it's revealed 25,000 migrants have crossed the Channel this year, with half coming since Labour took power.
The latest ban on lethal zombie knives kicks in today, but is it really enough to keep our streets safe?
Flash flooding overnight threatens to close some schools and workplaces, as the Met Office is warning this is just the beginning.
Pubmageddon, as it's revealed more than 50 pubs a month closed on average in the first half of the year alone.
And as local councils are pushed to the brink thanks to a new tax on burning rubbish, we ask whether it's time to stop the eco-war.
And in sport this morning, arguably the two best teams in the country played out a game of truly two halves as Man City drew 2-2 with Arsenal. Another exciting tour draw between Brighton and Nottingham Forest, with both managers getting sent off, and Harry Kane breaks another record and celebrates at Oktoberfest in Bavaria.
We've got an unsettled week of weather ahead of us, and an amber rain warning is already enforced across some areas today. So please do join me later for all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned into GB News Breakfast.
No, just to say to you, wherever you are in the country today, particularly from the south, the southeast of the country, rain. Rain is probably going to affect your day, and I went through a lot of puddles today.
Puddles is an understatement. The worst weather I've come into GB News in, I have to say, in terms of standing water across 3 lanes. Really, really dangerous in the dark earlier. So those of you heading out on your commute, make sure you are particularly careful if you're driving. What was it like for you, Coity?
Oh, terrible. The thing is, then there's the walk. My trousers are still wet, actually.
No.
I am. I have a wet trousers. That's that old story. Yeah. But yeah, it was awful. Yeah, it was like a lake in some of the roads I was driving through.
And it's just September and the water table is already full. So, you know, floods on the way are being warned, widespread floods, not just in the south.
So we're watered up.
We're watered
at
up.
capacity.
Yeah, which is, you know, if we had those reservoirs, it would be good news, but we don't.
We won't have hose bans and all sorts of things like that. But I noticed as I got into London today, London is completely flooded because the Victorian drainage can't deal with it all.
Modern weather.
There was 2 major roads. I think it was the North Circular was coming in, and there was police cars either side of it on the other side of the lane where I was driving, because it was closed, because it was like how deep it was. Ridiculous. It looked like a river I was driving through.
Well,
OK, well, you've been warned. Do be careful if you're out and about this morning, whether you're in a car or, I suppose, you know, lots of impact on schools and things. We'll have all the details a little bit later on.
On the news front, the Labour Party's first conference in power began in Liverpool yesterday with the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner giving her keynote speech. In that, she admitted the government is facing tough choices, but change had begun.
Well, today it's the turn of the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and she's expected to say that the UK must accept hard times and tough decisions or risk ruin.
Well, to discuss all the latest, GBNews political correspondent Olivia Utley is there. She's at conference in Liverpool. And what's the mood there, Olivia?
Well, the mood here perhaps isn't quite as celebratory as it might have been. Labour won this enormous majority just 3 months ago, but that all feels as though it's been a little bit overshadowed over the last few days by this freebie story that's been engulfing Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner. Rachel Reeves is hoping to change all that a bit later when she does her speech at conference as the first ever female Chancellor. She's trying to set a bit of a different tone to the tone that Keir Starmer laid out when he took power back in July. That was a very, very miserable tone. Rachel Reeves is going to try and lighten the mood a bit. She'll talk about the fantastic potential that Britain has. She'll say that there are good days ahead if only Britain seizes them. But she will also warn of very tough times ahead. We are very much expecting in the next budget, as well as, of course, that removal of the VAT exemption for private schools, so an increase in fees for private schools, and a windfall tax on oil and gas. We are also expecting to see a rise in capital gains tax and inheritance tax. And I don't think that Rachel Reeves' speech today will do anything to calm nerves about that. She will also try and reassure British businesses that the Labour government is a pro-business government. Now, that is quite a tricky message to give, given that at the same time, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, is working on this workers' rights bill, which is expected to make life pretty much a lot more difficult for employers by enshrining into law all sorts of rights for even quite temporary workers. So Rachel Reeves is going to have a tough time selling this budget to business, but that's the message that she's giving today. This is going to be a positive message, good times ahead, but we will face economic ruin if we don't make the difficult decisions now. She's laying the groundwork once again for tough spending decisions come that budget on the 30th of October.
Yeah, what about, the positivity that we all need? She's been criticised not only by the unions for
I should be Bavarian, I think I should.
Pocketing pensioners' policy on winter fuel payments, but she's also been criticised by the Bank of England for being unnecessarily doom and gloom. They've handed her an extra 10 billion. Why does she have to keep coming out being so miserable?
Well, she would say that today she's going to be a bit less miserable. She will be talking about the opportunities that Britain can see. She will be talking about making Britain more of a pro-business country. She'll say as well that she won't be raising taxes after that budget on October the 30th because she understands the importance of growth. There'll be a lot of talk about growth. She doesn't want to be a tax and spend chancellor, but she will say again, and we've heard it so many times before, that it is necessary to fill that alleged £22 billion black hole that the Conservatives have left in public finances. And to do that, she'll claim she'll need to make really hard decisions. I think perhaps the little sweetener for ordinary people is that she will argue that these changes will affect those with the broadest shoulders. So, of course, parents of children at private schools, she counts as those with the broadest shoulders. Oil and gas companies on which she's going to impose a windfall tax. Then capital gains taxes. Again, it tends to affect not necessarily always just workers, not employees, but those with large amounts of savings and other streams of income. So she will claim that ordinary people won't feel the pinch from this budget too much. That said, of course, the most unpopular measure is going to be this scrapping of winter fuel credits for pensioners. And already she's in trouble at conference about this. There's going to be a protest today from the biggest union, Unite, although Labour, including Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, have said they're going to go ahead with the policy anyway. So Rachel Reeves' message is that this will only hit people with very broad shoulders. Don't worry if you're just an ordinary working person. That message is slightly undermined by that cut to winter fuel payments, which will, of course, affect lots and lots and lots of pensioners, many of them most certainly ordinary people.
Olivia, also slightly undermined for the Chancellor today is this whole donor gate. She herself now embroiled in it, a newspaper revealing that she registered £7,500 of clothing donations as office expenses. Now, if you or I did that, Olivia, HMRC would be on our case. We absolutely can't claim our clothing and get away with that. And she oversees the HMRC. So how on earth can she front up to all of us and brazen that out today?
Well, absolutely. I wish we could get away with that, but of course we can't. How is she going to brazen it out? This is a real challenge for the Labour Party. And it does feel, and this is the sort of murmurings that I've heard in Liverpool, that there are concerns about the political nous of those at the very top of number 10, including Keir Starmer, Sue Gray, Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves. How did these people think they were going to get away with it? There's also some frustration from within Labour with the fact that over the election campaign, and actually in the years running up to the election campaign, really ever since he took office, Keir Starmer ran a really, really tight ship. Everything was so disciplined. I was reporting on that election campaign, going around the country, and almost no one ever said a line that was a tiny bit off message. Everyone was so drilled, everyone was so disciplined. But that discipline, as soon as they've got into power, seems to have gone out of the window. All of these freebie stories that are swirling around, and the Labour Party just can't seem to get a grip on them. And that's causing frustration from within the Labour ranks at conference at the moment.
Thank you, Olivia. Obviously, we will be back and forward to Olivia at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool throughout the morning. If you've got a view on it, please do let us know what you think, what they should be talking about, what they should be doing, how they can sort things out. Let us know.
And we have Rachel Reeves, number 2, coming on the programme a little bit later on. That is Darren Jones. He's Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Very pleased to be having him on just after 9 o'clock.
Why are you very pleased?
Well, because they don't come on so often now that they're in power. They came on every day all the way up to the election, and now they're not so fast.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. Today, the ban on zombie knives comes into effect. Now, over the last 4 weeks, people have been given the opportunity to hand these weapons in at police stations.
Yes, Jack Carson went to see some of the weapons recovered from Birmingham.
For those in the West Midlands, it's a familiar sight. A forensic tent and police tape marks the spot where a dangerous weapon was used in an attack. From tomorrow, the law will get tougher, and it will be illegal to own zombie-style knives and machetes, adding to the list of what's already banned, like zombie and butterfly knives and samurai swords. Over the past few weeks, anyone who has one of these weapons has been urged to hand them over at police stations or use a surrender bin. There are 31 surrender bins across this region, and as one was opened, the scale of the problem facing police was made clear. Police and Crime Commissioner for the West Midlands, Simon Foster, says the bins are just one part of the strategy.
And we're absolutely committed to doing everything within our powers in order to ensure that we prevent, tackle and reduce knife crime, protect young and vulnerable people and save lives. This is only but one part of the strategy that we have to prevent, tackle and reduce knife crime. Plainly, we also need robust policing in order to be able to deal with those people who are intent on causing harm to others. In addition to that, we also have to invest in prevention, early intervention, diversion and addressing the underlying causes of crime.
But whilst these knives are on their way to being destroyed, weapons just like them are still on the streets. According to figures from the ONS, the West Midlands has the highest rate of knife crime offences in England and Wales. There were 5,268 offences in the force area between April 2023 and March 2024, giving a rate of 178 per 100,000 of the population. That's higher than the Metropolitan Police Forces, which recorded a rate of 169 per 100,000 people. In Birmingham city centre, the attempts at solving knife crime haven't made people confident.
You see 12-year-olds carrying knives, and I think it's absolutely disgusting that the police aren't doing anything about it.
No, I don't feel safe at all. We're here today for a reason, but we'll be in and out as quick as possible. Don't feel safe at all anywhere, not just Birmingham.
You know, anything could happen at any moment. You can't predict who will have a weapon and who doesn't have a weapon.
The government says the ban on zombie-style knives is the first step in their plan to halve knife crime within a decade. As this surrender bin is sealed again, will the change in the law make streets safer? Jack Carson, GB News, Birmingham.
Another policy which nothing will happen with. absolutely disgraceful. You just go on something like, say, Instagram, and you can look there night after night and you see people brandishing knives, pulling them out in circumstances where they weren't reported to the police or whatever, that there's skirmishes in the street and whatever, and they're there, they exist, they are common, they are tolerated, and does that mean they're tolerated by the security forces, the police and co as well? Not taken strictly enough, seriously enough, and I think you know, there should be the fear of God in people who are thinking about carrying a knife like that.
Yeah, there's no excuse not to have got a grip of this problem. The fact that we've brought in so many bans and we haven't managed to nip this in the bud, what's it going to take? You know, in America, they can't get control of their gun problem because they have a constitutional reason. What's our excuse? You know, there's no reason we can't get a grip of one of these knives.
Well, they'll say, for instance, well, how can you ban a 6-foot-long zombie knife when it does the same damage as a 6-inch-long kitchen knife, you know? Yes, well, if it looks like a zombie knife, it is a zombie knife, and you can ban it as such. And if they have to be tolerated then going around with kitchen knives, that would be a first step. That would be a first step about this. What would you suggest doing about zombie knives and banning them? Let us know your views throughout the programme this morning. gbnews.com/have-your-say.
Right, the time is 6:14. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And GB News can exclusively reveal that roughly 25,000 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel so far this year, and half of them in the 11 weeks since Labour took power. This weekend alone, GB News counted more than 1,400 small boat migrants as they arrived in Dover.
Iranian militia Hezbollah has said that the group is entering a new phase of its battle with Israel, describing it as open-ended. The terrorist organisation has vowed to retaliate against Israel for a wave of attacks last week on pagers and walkie-talkies. Israel hasn't confirmed or denied responsibility for what happened.
Donald Trump has made a rather unconventional election pledge. The former president has vowed to reach Mars if he's elected to the White House in November. The Republican nominee also promised to bring the SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk with him. Earlier this month, the American billionaire said, "We will never reach Mars if Kamala Harris wins."
So why do we care if we reach Mars? That's another thing. Can I just say something? Shrinkflation.
Yeah.
Right, I've had an awful lot of shrinkflation going on in the past couple of weeks.
Have you?
Yes. With the Christmas sweeties, all right, the celebrations and all that sort of thing, yeah.
Okay.
But you know the boxes, the plastic tins or whatever they are, that size, they're now that size, right? And what was I having the other day? Coca-Cola has Santa Claus all over the front of its cans at the minute.
September.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
What else? Mars bars, they're just ridiculously small. They're so puny, it's untrue. Maltesers, quel horror. I was eating a box of Maltesers on Saturday night, but a box was it's like a packet of Maltesers.
Yeah, you need 2 boxes now.
You need
Can you
4
do that
boxes.
trick where you get a straw and you blow through the straw and you can suspend the Malteser above your head? Can you do that?
No. I couldn't resist the temptation of swallowing.
Just to eat it, wouldn't mess about with it.
Yeah. But, you know, the shrinkflation thing, I think I'd almost rather pay, more for the product rather than be fooled into, oh, this is amazing, this is the same size. Nothing seems to be the same size. Nothing is. And we're all being taken for mugs because they can go with shrinkflation, but if the prices ever came down again, they won't increase what's in the packets or boxes.
Pay more and you get less. Go figure, but we still do it.
Except for us. We're better value.
Always.
Here as regards the news programme. Still plenty of time to grab a chance to win an incredible £36,000 just to prove all of this. This is our Great British Giveaway.
Yeah, it's like having an extra £3,000 in your bank account every month for a whole year. It's tax-free, means Rachel Reeves or whoever's in charge can't get their hands on it. Here's how that could be yours.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that.
£30,000 cash? Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Yes, you see.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth. Available at gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Many happy memories, and 9 in 10 Brits say certain foods evoke feelings of childhood nostalgia, with the mousse-like powdered dessert, Angel Delight, the most loved. Joining us now...
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, what, Angel Delight?
I'm surprised it's number 1. Yes, very surprised. Well, to talk us through all of this is creator of the Crazy Sexy Food podcast, Hannah Harley-Young. Morning.
Hi. I've brought a selection of things that really define my childhood, particularly the Viennetta ice cream. And I have brought you some butterscotch Angel Delight.
Yay!
I'm going to expose myself live on camera and say that I've never tried Angel Delight.
Hannah?
I know. I don't know what that says about me.
I thought that was apple puree, actually. I'm so excited. Is it good?
Oh, my goodness.
Did I make it okay?
Oh, yeah. But to be fair, Hannah, it's not that hard to make.
Well, what is it, though? That's what's so funny about Angel Delight.
It's chemicals. It's just chemicals in a bag.
I mean, it's a load of additives, which, I mean, one thing that's also really interesting about all these nostalgic foods when you look at them is that a lot of things have been discontinued over the years.
Oh, dear.
So it makes you wonder, how did this one kind of get through the cracks?
Angel Delight came out number 1, didn't it?
It did come out as number 1. And also sort of in the top 5 was fish and chips, something I still eat today. Fish fingers, still a staple of my diet. Mr. Whippy, in that same survey, they said that 95% of people find that a taste from their childhood will take them back more than looking at a photo. And that's something that's really interesting for me, and it's the basis of everything that I do, and the reason really why I set up Crazy Sexy Food, or one of the reasons, should I say, was that I love this concept of memories of food. You know, I've interviewed hundreds of people over the past 5 years, and when I get to that question, you actually see their face relaxing, and there's something that it evokes emotion.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
We just thought we'd draw your attention to the wet weather overnight. I mean, we're talking particularly wet, so does that mean summer is officially over? Did summer officially start? Did it? There's a few nice days here and there, but let's find out what this means. Let's go to Jim Dale. Jim's a senior meteorologist at the at British Weather Services. With all of this, Jim, a lot of people will be waking up, as we did this morning, to a bit of a shock that it's very wet out there.
Yeah, it is. It's ugly. Not everywhere. You've got to put this into context. But yesterday wasn't a great day. There's some not so nice pictures of Dunstable, Luton area really underwater. And to be frank with you, the area of low pressure, which is sitting over southern Suffolk at the moment, that's slow moving, and there is amber warnings out there. So it's a threat to life. There's yellow warnings as well. I think the amber warning is slightly further north than it should be, actually. I think the areas of concern, again, are going to be Buckinghamshire, Bedfordshire, into Surrey and Bedfordshire yesterday. Those general areas saw 45 millimetres of rain in a single day. It's going to be added to today. So by the end of today, in those areas, and probably a little bit beyond that into London as well, the general total for 48 hours is going to exceed something in the region of 70 millimetres. So you can see it's our turn. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 second these floods are going to be anything like that we've seen in Europe, which have been absolutely devastating. And not just Europe, but in places in Africa, in North Carolina, in the United States. I could go on day after day after day. These things are occurring. So it is our turn now. We'll see if we can get through this one, hopefully unscathed.
Where are we with the water table? Because it seems to me like, yes, we've had an awful lot of water, but it's already not really got very much space to go to. This morning at the drive-in, we were discussing
I mean, to be honest with you,
really
I went. Yeah, I've got a local wood next to me, and I was walking it the other day and seeing how dry it was. In actual fact, because the southeast particularly had been dry for some time. But no, you're right. Once you get 70, 80 millimetres of rain, or even half of that amount, the water tables rise very quickly. Particularly this time of year when you've got that sort of I say concrete. Yeah, the concrete areas don't absorb water very well anyway. That's one of the problems that we've now got. But even wooded areas, they'll sit on top. The water table might not necessarily be high, but it will sit on top. And you've got another problem as well, of course, and that's river levels burgeoning quite quickly, and in which case you do get the overspill. So you can see the pictures you're showing now. And one thing I would say today is, don't drive into a swollen road, because you will not come out of it very easily. Your car can be easily taken by this amount of rainfall and the water flow that accrues. So the amber warning's out there for a good reason. It really is, but I think it's slightly further south than the Met Office have got at this moment in time.
Okay, top tip.
Why is it happening, though, Jim? Why so much rain?
Good question. I'm glad you asked it, Eamonn. Why so much rain globally is simply because the oceans have been warmed up by global warming, climate change, to record levels. That's the Mediterranean, it's the Adriatic, it's the Black Sea, it's the Atlantic. It's what you'll see when Hurricane Helene forms in the Gulf of Mexico. 30 degrees in the Gulf of Mexico, 28 to 30 degrees, the sea temperature. So there's your energy. That goes into the atmosphere. The atmosphere then can hold more water. It's assessed to be around 7% higher than it was even 10 years ago. So, that's one of the reasons why we're seeing these huge downpours. So those who poo-poo climate change, I'd say openly on this program, they're wrong. They're wrong, completely wrong. They're deceivers and deniers, and they need to get their act together. I'm not saying what we're seeing in the UK today is necessarily climate driven. We will wait until the aftermath, because that's what you've got to do, and pick up the pieces. Scientists will look at it and suggest whether or not the rain we're seeing now is in addition to what we might have ordinarily seen, say, 20, 30 years ago. But certainly what's going on around the world, and the European floods of late, which were devastating, definitely part of the equation of climate change. So I think the deniers, the deceivers have got nowhere to run.
OK, Jim, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Jim.
Morning. You'll have got lots of our audience listening and engaged this morning. Appreciate it. And we had the royal family, I think the King, over the weekend, sending his best wishes to all of those being caught up in these European floods, which have been really devastating and claiming lives there.
So you'll be wondering where the rain's going to be today. We're going to go to Jonathan Vaughtry right now, and he will tell you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is your GB News weather report provided by the Met Office. We do have quite an unsettled week of weather to come, with most of us seeing rain at some point. But for Monday, it is Wales and England that are the focus point, with this area of low pressure across these regions. This will be bringing some very heavy pulses of rain around at times. The potential is certainly there for some localised flooding, disruption to services and very difficult driving conditions. So do take care over the course of the day. These will be mulling their way around, but we could see some slightly brighter spells developing across the far southeast later on in the afternoon. Temperatures here in that sunshine climbing to 21 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, it's a reasonably cool day, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. There is a broad yellow rain warning in force for much of England and Wales, but we do also have an enhanced amber rain warning also in force for parts of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, up towards the Wash and the Humber. This is where we could see over a month's worth of rain falling during the day, and some disruption is certainly likely here, so please do take care. Generally a cloudy day for Northern Ireland, a few sunny spells trying to poke their way through for Dumfries and Galloway, but we've got a band of rain pushing into the far north of Scotland, and they'll also be turning things fairly damp as it moves its way slowly southwards, with some brisk winds around at times as we head towards the end of the day on Monday also. For most of us overnight, it is going to be rather cloudy, that rain gradually pushing its way eastwards across eastern parts of England, and underneath that cloud, though, it will be still relatively mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, but we're starting to see some cooler, colder conditions moving into the far north of Scotland as northerly winds from the Arctic begin to push their way in. That rain will spread its way into other areas of Scotland during the day, but things will generally turn a bit calmer for Northern Ireland, England, Wales compared to what we will see today. A bit drier, but generally still rather cloudy. Any bright spells still fairly limited. Starting to cool down for all of us now as those northerly winds set their way in, generally between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius. And that cooling trend will continue over the course of the next week, with temperatures dropping below average for many of us. Enjoy your day.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Renfrewshire, the A737 is closed each way at Kilbarcan because of an accident. On the M1 in Nottinghamshire, 2 lanes are closed southbound after an accident at junction 26 at Eastwood. In Staffordshire, the A5 is blocked by flooding at Stretton. There are a number of other road closures because of flooding. In Buckinghamshire, the A422 is closed between Chichley and Aswood. Bedfordshire, the A421 is closed off the A6 near Bedford, and in Hertfordshire, the A41 is closed off the Hartspring roundabout in Watford. On the M4 in Berkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound just before junction 12 near Reading after an accident causing queues, and on the M25 in Kent, there are clockwise queues after traffic was stopped because of a breakdown at junction 1B at Dartford. The queues back to the QE2 bridge, and that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
The mighty Paul Coit is here in the building today, reflecting on a weekend of sport. And what a weekend of sport, my friend.
Oh, it really has been. Yesterday, Manchester City Arsenal. Did you see the Man City Arsenal game?
No.
God, you know what it was? It was a proper ding-dong. Yeah. There was none of... You know what we can't stand is when you get all the hugs and the friendliness and all that. There was none of that.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
There was needle, there was trouble. It was just like we like our football. Remarkable game it was. So City scored first. Erling Haaland scores. Then Arsenal scored with Riccardo Calafiori, which was a great goal for Arsenal. Gabriel then from a corner, so it goes 2-1 up. This is at the Etihad. So then Leandro Trossard gets himself sent off 8 minutes after the 45. So this is dragging on and on and on. So he gets sent off for basically kicking the ball away. And it's just like happened with Declan Rice the other week. Kicks the ball away, second yellow card, gets sent off, which was well-deserved. But obviously our friend Captain Black was not happy about what happened. Let's hear what Captain Black had to say.
I was already in big trouble trying to solve what happened on the pitch. Is not my problem now to solve what happens off the pitch.
But there was another one, wasn't there, featuring Doku?
That's what I'm saying. That is that obvious that I think it's not necessary to comment it. It's the second time.
He's not very happy about the sending off. But then Arsenal sat back.
Yeah.
Very good, defended for 45 minutes. Right at the very end, John Stones scores the equaliser. But it was a hell of a game.
But, you know, assure deep down, they're lucky to get off with a 2-2 draw, playing with 10 men.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, when you have 10 men, when you sit them all, because that's the thing, I wonder if the game had been different, because if Trossard hadn't been sent off, they may not have sat back like they did, so then Manchester City just could not break through because you've just got two walls of Arsenal players.
Now, talking about breaking through, the boxing, Isabel was a bit upset with the boxing.
Well,
and
look, I know it's fun to see AJ being challenged, but I didn't like seeing him being challenged so much. I mean, he looked completely outclassed on Saturday
He was
night.
outclassed.
And it was sad, really. It was like a dethroning.
Is that him finished?
You know what? He says it isn't, because this is Daniel Dubois, who's 28 years old, and Joshua's in his mid-30s. So it was... He absolutely destroyed him. 5th round knockout. He knocked him down pretty much every round. Yeah, and Dubois was magnificent. And is he finished? He says no. He says he's going to fight on. You get heavyweights that actually do fight on when they're older, but... Why? Why continue? You know what? He's won he's won the world title twice. He's done it twice. He is rich beyond his dreams.
It's not about that, though, for him now. His ego will have been sore. I mean, he said afterwards, I'm pissed. I don't know how to say that, but he was like, I'm annoyed, I'm cross.
Yeah.
Are they facing off again in December?
First time I've ever heard you swear there.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
It's not the first time. She has sworn before.
Has she?
But yeah,
not in my presence. I just want to make that clear right now.
If you just Google Isabel Webster swearing...
What, you mean you've been drinking? Or...
No,
I might swear soon. How small am I?
Well, I keep having to lower my chair because yours is shrinking.
We have these very cheap chairs in here and they don't hold up. I was watching and I was laughing, I have to say, at Beverly Turner with Andrew Pearce the other day, getting smaller and smaller and smaller beside him. And he's not a big man, let's face it.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like an umpire at Wimbledon, sitting up above, watching, looking down on you two as the game goes on.
It should be for you.
Well, I think so. I do think so. But anyway, so is he finished? I think he should be. It's not good for his health because the more batterings he takes, we know what that's going to do. But will he fight on? We'll have to see, because then you get 100... Oh, he's 100 million, he's another 150 million. It's difficult to turn down.
One thing I would say, Dubois didn't seem very happy afterwards, and I actually felt like, because he said, you're not entertained. I was like, I actually came away thinking, is he a victim in all of this? Is he being made to fight?
Oh, no.
Not like it?
Trust me, he's not a victim in all of this. I think it's just his personality. He's not like the Anthony Joshua personality, so it's trying to deal with being a world champion, and how far he's going to go, who knows? Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
They had a good lineup in the audience of former boxers and things there.
Oh, everybody was there.
Yeah, everybody was there.
But 96,000 people at Wembley.
Yeah,
Maya Jama was there.
Was she?
He was there, yeah.
You didn't get taken. Is that +1?
No.
I was peed when I saw her. Yeah, I wasn't asked to go. We got time for a little Harry Kane, and we got time for Harry.
He's drinking again.
He is drinking again. He's become the highest. He's the highest score. He's a highest-scoring Englishman in Bundesliga history. 41 goals in 36 appearances. So how did he celebrate? How else would you celebrate? If you play for Bayern Munich, you go to Oktoberfest. Let's see Harry enjoying Oktoberfest. Hopefully we can see him there. He's got the lederhosen on. He's there with the rest of the Bayern Munich team. They do it every year. So Oktoberfest gets underway in Munich. Are we going to see this? Oh, OK, so hopefully, here we go.
It's been a fantastic week. I mean, to score the amount of goals we have and to win the games in the fashion we have has been amazing. So it's been a great start to the season so far. But as always, we just want to continue it. So we enjoyed today here at the Oktoberfest, and then we look forward to next week.
He's doing a Steve McLaren there. He's spoken with a German accent.
Do you think it was slightly German?
I think it slightly was.
You know what's interesting? Because the other guy who was one of the high scorers, you remember Tony Woodcock?
Yes.
Who played at Cologne.
Yeah.
Tony Woodcock, who he played at Nottingham Forest, and then he went to Arsenal, then he went out to Cologne. Spent so many years in Germany. He came back with a slight German accent.
Yeah.
Even though his English is a slight German accent, which is interesting. So do you think Harry might be going that way?
I think we'll listen to that again next time.
You would definitely get a twang.
Oh, you know what? I get twanged up after there for 2 days.
You do?
Yeah.
We've got to go, Paul, because I've got to get something to sit on before I disappear.
Do you want me to jack you up there during the during the ads?
Whatever you say, my friend. Still to come. Is a bar of chocolate more comforting than a shoulder to cry on? Which would you rather? Chocolate, shoulder?
I need both, otherwise I'm not interested.
After this.
Yeah, see you in a sec.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
But let's get stuck in. Prince Harry, he's consulted former aides about a possible partial return to the UK as he seeks to repair his public image, that is according to the Daily Mail.
Who wants him? I'm sorry. This is, of course, he's got his book Spare.
Yeah.
The paperback comes out later this year. Now, he's not updating it, but he'll want to promote it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says he's not doing any interviews, but we're talking about him now, we're talking about Spare.
Yeah.
And is he going to come back with his wife? What about the children? Because apparently it's not safe for his wife and children in this country, according to Harry, even though he took his wife to Colombia, which is much less safe than Britain, in my view.
It's absurd. And anyway, he was able to attend his uncle's funeral quite easily.
He did.
Nobody knew he was coming. He said
That's
he wasn't, and then he did. And he was perfectly safe.
And he would have had the same security as every other member of the royal family who attended that event.
Yeah.
But, of course, he didn't speak to his brother at the funeral.
No, he wouldn't, would he?
So if he's trying to fix it, honestly, a funeral is where you should put all differences aside because it's not about you. It's about respect to the person, the family of the person who's gone, which was his uncle. It was his... Diana's sister's husband had died. So, yet they didn't speak. They didn't speak in the church, they didn't speak when they left the church. Incredible, isn't it?
It's awful because that moment is when you realise that we are all mortal. And at that point, all other things should transcend that, but not...
Well, this move is being branded as Operation Bring Harry In From the Cold, because apparently he's a bit fed up with his life in Montecito. Does that mean with his wife?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Apparently he's dissatisfied with advice from his American-based image expert.
Well, they've had about 10 of them, haven't they? They're on to their number 11.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're delighted to welcome Nikki Hodgson and Dawn Neeson with their
we'll
views
do
on the papers
thing I
today,
said
guys.
you
Good
would.
morning to you. And Dawn, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is going to speak today at the Labour Party conference. What's she going to say?
Well, it's not going to be good, is it, basically? This is the front page of the Times. Good times ahead if we seize them, says Rachel Reeves. She's going to strike an optimistic note. Somehow I'm not holding my breath on this one. She says Britain has immense potential, but the nation faces economic ruin unless they balance the books. She's also going to promise that we are not going to return to austerity. The problem is, it feels like it to everybody, doesn't it? I mean, the budget is on October the 30th. They have said already they're not going to do a reverse ferret on the winter fuel payment, but, you know, they're not going to change national insurance, but pretty much everything else is up for grabs, isn't it? So it's just... And, you know, consumer confidence is through the floor.
I would say if you earn a few quid, you're done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're a pensioner, you're done as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really... there's a lot... As I say, consumer confidence report this weekend is through the floor. Understand, we're putting off buying anything. We're putting off going on holiday. We're worried about what our finance is going to be in a couple of weeks' time. So she can sound as optimistic as she wants, but I don't think anyone's going to believe it.
And the trouble is, you know, before they were voted into power, their whole mantra was growth. We're going for growth. We're going to growth, so we don't have to raise taxes. All of this negativity since they came into power does the opposite of producing growth. Everyone's losing confidence. As you're saying, anyone that earns a buck contemplating either moving their business or looking for prospects overseas. I mean, is this a really bad calculation from Rachel Reeves, do you think, Nikki?
I just think they've got off to such a bad start.
I was so optimistic at the beginning, and now I'm just like, I don't understand how they've got into such a mess so quickly.
But they would say they inherited that mess.
Well, they did inherit that mess, but what you then have to do is stagger the pain of what you deliver in government. I know what the method is. The method is get it all out of the way, and then there'll be some kind of little bounce, and then people will sort of feel more elated. But you've got to weave in the positive things with the negative. It doesn't make any political sense to me at all.
There'll be a lot of people who voted for them, expecting something different, and then also having all of this donor-gate swirling around, you know, seeing that there's one rule for them and another rule for us. That was what they complained about when in opposition. There will be a lot of resentful voters, won't there? I mean, you can see that in the polling. Their popularity's already plummeted after 11 weeks.
Yes. Absolutely through the floor. Again, another report over the weekend. The popularity of Keir Starmer is just down to -26. Popularity of the whole party is down. And, you know, let's hope people, you know, kept the receipt, because we've got 5 years to go. And the thing is, it's stopping people investing in this. You know, you want growth, but it's stopping people investing in this country. Businesses are leaving. Oh, millionaires are leaving. Yeah, it matters that millionaires are leaving, because they're the ones that pay a lot of tax.
Of course.
Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, Nikki, is she's going to record her time in office with an official photographer. I think this is quite... It's quite good. I think if I did this, I would love pictures like that. I'd love to have had pictures of what I've done throughout the years, official pictures taken.
But would you make the taxpayer pay for
that's
it?
Yes, that's
the point. Yeah, 68 grand a year.
No. He's on 68 grand a year, is he not? Is that his salary?
Yeah, paid for by the tax.
Paid for by the
Well, he's not then. He couldn't be exclusive to her, surely.
Well, he's technically doing housing as well. He's got two portfolios almost. Not that he's a minister. But I think what absolutely stinks about this story is the fact that, well, first of all, she's the first Deputy Prime Minister to ever have requested this and to be given it. So that's significant.
Her office is denying, by the way. We should stress this. We've contacted them, and she says it's not true. We'll see.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, having read daily untrue stories about myself in the newspapers, I can seriously say that it is amazing what they get away with, or that then becomes fact once they print it. So I personally wouldn't be in a position to believe this.
Well, I mean, OK, maybe it isn't true. GBNews' very own Andrew Pearce has done some reporting on it and is talking about the growth of brand Ange this morning in the Mail. I mean, the problem with this, again, is it's the optics. The optics of trying to look good. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Haven't Labour learned anything from what happened with the Tories and the way they try to...
OK, all right, I hear what you're saying.
...force perceptions?
How does she look good, then?
Well, she looks good anyway. People don't want her to look perfect. They want her to look real. They want her to look like someone that goes to work for the country. Yeah, I mean, look, we've all got to brush our hair in the morning and sort ourselves out.
Somebody called Rishi Sunak was Chancellor, and he had a so-called vanity photographer.
And it completely didn't work.
But it was all part of a ploy to eventually become Prime Minister.
Sure.
Because he was renowned for being a super slick operator, and as soon as that... Perhaps Angela Rayner has ambitions.
Well, the argument here is that she's feeling pushed out by Rachel Reeves, so this is about pushing her back in, despite her being the deputy. She feels like she's the third.
Yeah, I don't care what either of these women look like, to be honest with you. I just want them to run the country.
Be competent.
Please just do your job.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. I mean, whether your hair looks fantastic or what you're wearing.
No, but what she's trying to do is to give the impression that she is running the country and to look serious. I mean, it's quite obvious. Angela Rayner is a very talented politician, right? But it's quite obvious that a lot of people would not give her the chance to be so because they don't like who she is and where she's from, her background and whatever. So she's fighting that, Dawn.
But if you try and manipulate your image, Eamonn, people pick up on that straight away. It's the thing you can't do. You've unfortunately, as a politician, got to accept there's going to be loads of terrible pictures of you all the time, telling stories that you don't want them to tell. You know, Ed Miliband and the bacon sandwich, you can't ever get away from it. People will be thinking about that, you know, when his obituary's been written, poor guy. But it's just part of the process, and if you don't like it and you can't take it, don't be in politics.
I mean, every day there's another story, isn't there? I mean, it's like over the weekend we had Bridget Phillipson accepting Taylor Swift concert tickets because her little girl wanted to go and see it. Well, lots of people's little girls wanted to go and see Taylor Swift.
And she had a 40th birthday party as well, paid for by Lord Darley.
With a £14,000 cake. That's a hell of a cake.
She denied that
what is it with politicians and birthday cakes?
Yeah.
It's just like,
she said there was one yesterday, I don't know. Let's talk about people being wrongly classed as sick, Dawn. this is the front of the Telegraph. They're saying that 1 million people wrongly classed as too sick to work.
Yeah, it's an intriguing story. This is a report by the Centre for Social Justice, and have found that joblessness in Britain is nearly twice as high as official figures suggest. Now, officially, we have 1.4 million people unemployed, but 9.5 million people economically inactive. That covers people that basically are either early retirees, stay-at-home parents, students, long-term sick. But the CSJ have done a study and asked people, you know, what benefits are you on, why are you off sick? And they have found that 800,000 people who were asked the question said, well, yeah, I'm not currently working at the moment, but I do want to get a job. So there are 800,000 people that have somehow fallen through the official statistics. And if each of these people were helped back into work properly rather than just languishing on benefits, it would reduce pressure on the taxpayer by £10,900 each per person. So that's an awful lot of money the taxpayer could save there, so we can hand more out to politicians to buy birthday cakes.
I mean, it's difficult with health things because obviously we've got these ridiculous NHS waiting lists, which is why some people are off sick because, you know, they're just not getting seen in time. Yeah. And then we've got this mental health epidemic. But the other thing I would say is someone that's had very serious mental health problems, work is generally tends to be good for you.
Yes.
Not for everybody, but some kind of work supported with the right support is good for people. So, you know, we can't leave people to languish. We've got to help people get back if they want to.
Dawn, tell us about the benefits of a bar of chocolate.
I love this story. It's a research by it's not a research by a chocolate company, because normally when you read these stories you think, oh yeah, right, OK, of course it's by a chocolate company. But this is research by 3 very serious university types. And they have found that people would rather have a gift of chocolate than a sympathetic shoulder to cry on. They did the experiment they used was imagine someone had driven into your car and you contact a friend support. Would you rather have that friend phone you, or would you rather have them send a box of chocolates? Most people said we would rather have the box of chocolates. And the reasoning behind it is people think that a sympathetic ear, a cuddle, is like benefiting both people. Whereas a box of chocolates or something sent to you as a gift is just benefiting you. That's the psychology behind it.
What benefit is it to the person who rings somebody when you've had a car crash to listen to you whinging on about it?
Because empathy, you want them to be there for you, don't you?
No, but oh, right, you're doing it as a sort of quid pro quo.
Well, but isn't that what we do? Altruism?
I think as in you do it out of kindness and concern for that person, not because you're getting something out of it, not because you want something in return.
No, I agree with you on that.
I think you're doing it because you care about that person.
I don't think it's something you're actively thinking through, but I think, you know what it's like when you do a good deed for someone? You actually feel good yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the psychology behind it.
Really?
Yes, Eamonn. Don't look at me like that, Eamonn. Yes.
You're doing it for yourself.
No, you're not actively doing it for yourself. But deep down, if you do a good deed for someone, you do feel good about helping somebody out.
I'm just sorry. It's just a car analogy. I'm just thinking if my husband was in a car crash, I would call him out of concern and love for him, not because it would make me feel good.
Isabel,
I don't get it.
Isabel,
I don't get it. I would personally rather have the call than a box of chocolates.
Yeah, but you'd call your husband to find out what the car is. That's the reason.
I can think of nothing more short-lived than the ecstasy from a box of chocolates. And now
especially as shrinkflation.
The shrinkflation we were talking earlier. I mean, Dawn, you will be like me in that you will remember when you could bite into a block of Cadbury's chocolate
I don't think you've ever bitten into
and break your teeth on them, and a Mars bar would choke you, basically, and things. It is ridiculous what we've got now.
You know, my
Milky Ways. I had a Milky Way a couple of weeks ago. Well, I mean, it's just like that.
Yeah, it's gone. You know, my big one, Eamonn, is the tins of Quality Street at other tins of chocolate are available
Where
at
do you get the
Christmas.
celebrations?
They were huge. They were like that. You could fall into them. And now it's like that.
Yeah.
Which would be fine if you weren't paying as much.
Exactly.
Pay even more.
And don't get me started on the price of birthday cakes these days. I mean...
A lot of this
does seem a lot.
A lot of this happened with the Americans. As soon as the Americans get involved in anything, whether it's football or whether it's chocolates or whatever, everything goes to pot.
Yeah.
American chocolate is absolutely appalling. The worst.
But aren't they changing Snickers now back to marathon?
Yes,
that's
so
a happening
here.
thing.
Well, what's the benefit of that, do you think? I don't care what it's called, really. But, I mean, I then forgot that it was changed from marathon to Snickers.
Isn't it this thing, because there's this trend for retro snacks? People are nostalgic about what they used to have.
They weren't so small.
Yeah.
But Snickers is a sort of word like knickers, isn't it? You don't really...
Oh, right.
It's like, why do you want to put knickers in your mouth for? It's like...
It's too early for that.
Marathon,
Okay.
strength.
Yeah.
Courage.
Okay.
And full of
On
nuts.
that note, I'm going to say goodbye to you two. Thanks very much for reviewing the papers. More from them a little bit later on. We're going to have a little check-in on the weather because it is wet and windy out there. Here's Jonathan Vautry.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is your GB News weather report provided by the Met Office. We do have quite an unsettled week of weather to come, with most of us seeing rain at some point. But for Monday, it is Wales and England that are the focus point, with this area of low pressure across these regions. This will be bringing some very heavy pulses of rain around at times. The potential is certainly there for some localised flooding, disruption to services and very difficult driving conditions. So do take care over the course of the day. These will be mulling their way around, but we could see some slightly brighter spells developing across the far southeast later on in the afternoon. Temperatures here in that sunshine climbing to 21 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, it's a reasonably cool day, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. There is a broad yellow rain warning in force for much of England and Wales, but we do also have an enhanced amber rain warning also in force for parts of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, up towards the Wash and the Humber. This is where we could see over a month's worth of rain falling during the day, and some disruption is certainly likely here, so please do take care. Generally a cloudy day for Northern Ireland, a few sunny spells trying to poke their way through for Dumfries and Galloway, but we've got a band of rain pushing into the far north of Scotland, and they'll also be turning things fairly damp as it moves its way slowly southwards, with some brisk winds around at times as we head towards the end of the day on Monday also. For most of us overnight, it is going to be rather cloudy, that rain gradually pushing its way eastwards across eastern parts of England, and underneath that cloud, though, it will be still relatively mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, but we're starting to see some cooler, colder conditions moving into the far north of Scotland as northerly winds from the Arctic begin to push their way in. That rain will spread its way into other areas of Scotland during the day, but things will generally turn a bit calmer for Northern Ireland, England and Wales compared to what we will see today. A bit drier, but generally still rather cloudy, any bright spells still fairly limited. Starting to cool down for all of us now as those northerly winds set their way in, generally between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius, and that cooling trend will continue over the course of the next week, with temperatures dropping below average for many of us. Enjoy your day.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Renfrewshire, the A737 is closed each way between Harwood and Kilbarcan after an accident. The M56 in Cheshire is blocked eastbound by an accident between junctions 12 and 11 from Runcorn to Preston Brook, causing queues. The M1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound at junction 26 near Nottingham after an accident, with queues towards there. A number of roads are closed this morning or impassable because of flooding. In Buckinghamshire, the A422 is closed off the Chichley Hill roundabout. In Bedfordshire, the A421 is closed between the A6 and the M1 near Bedford, and in Hertfordshire, the A41 is impassable at Watford. On the M4 in Berkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound a couple of miles before junction 12 near Reading after an accident causing queues, and in Devon, the A38 is blocked eastbound by an accident between Harkham Cross and Kenford, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that.
£30,000 cash. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. The issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix, and trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Chancellor will tell the nation to accept hardship or face ruin.
Well, that's as she gears up to speak at the Labour conference in Liverpool later today.
But as more tales of Labour's freebie habits emerge, could they overshadow the conference altogether?
A GB News exclusive this morning as it's revealed 25,000 migrants have crossed the Channel since January, with some 12,000 coming since Labour actually took power.
The latest ban on lethal zombie knives kicks in today, but is it enough to finally keep our streets safe?
Pubmageddon, as it's revealed more than 50 pubs a month closed on average in the first half of the year.
And as local councils are pushed to the brink thanks to a new tax on burning rubbish, we ask if it's time to stop the eco-war.
And in the sport this morning, there are only 4 unbeaten teams in the Premier League, and they played each other and all stay unbeaten as Manchester City against Arsenal and Brighton against Nottingham Forest both ended 2-2. Lando Norris won the Singapore Grand Prix, and the World Pole Climbing Championships have taken place in Warwickshire.
We've got an unsettled week of weather ahead of us, and an amber rain warning is already enforced across some areas today. So please do join me later for all the details.
Very good to see you. Very good morning to you. 7 o'clock is the timer. 1 minute past 7. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast.
This morning we want to hear about your flooding dilemmas. A lot of you will have woken up to very heavy rainfall, or the consequences of very heavy rainfall, particularly in the south and the southeast of the country.
Yeah, around a lot of the home counties, I think, surrounding sort of south of London, really badly affected. Lots of standing water, dangerous driving conditions, and that water not going anywhere fast because, as Jim Dale was explaining to us, the ground has been so dry, a lot of it's sort of running off.
And it gets everywhere, this water. Look what it's done to Paul Coyte's hair this morning.
The trousers dried off.
I feel just such a mess. Yeah, the trousers are slowly drying off now. Slowly, just a little damp and a little uncomfortable. But you know what? That's it. That's the you take the rough with the smooth. When you park, we have to park as far away as I can, and then have to walk in through the rain like that. That's why I've looked bad today. I mean, I apologise.
Do you ever notice anywhere where there's a flyover? You go under a bridge and it's always...
That's exactly what happened this morning. Yeah, three lanes of traffic, this much water, and I drove my car through it, but I had to put my hazards on in case anyone came flying up behind me.
But is there...
Crazy out there.
Is there part of you that when you drive along that you like to go into the... Do you not?
No. I've done too
I feel like I'm in the Dukes of Hazzard as I'm driving along, going through some sort of lake or something.
When Eamonn and I first met, I was like a flood guru, was flood correspondent. That's all I did.
Oh, wow.
I've seen so many cars washed away. I've seen bridges washed away. I have a very healthy respect for even the smallest amount of
So what you're saying is I need to stop driving through big puddles?
100%.
OK, fair
But I used to feel so sorry for her. She was allocated floods, and she would go and she would stand in fields. And I would think, well, how is she going to... Does she stay in that field every 15 minutes when we go back and forward to her?
Freezing
or
cold.
does she do a piece in the field and then disappear to the warmth and then come back into the field and whatever? And the story was...
Oh, it was all down on the Somerset levels, but it would just go on for days and days and days and days and days. Couldn't go to the loo, there's nowhere to get snacks. It was awful.
But did you, hope it was going to rain? Because when it's the summer and you're thinking, I've got no work...
Every time it rained,
and every time...
I'd be thinking the phone's going to ring, you've got to go to the flood zone.
Wow.
Anyway.
Going to the loo wasn't an issue. No one would have noticed, would they?
Well, maybe the cameraman. Anyway, we digress.
If you've got any pictures to show us, let us know. Tell us your stories today. Get in touch. Always good to hear from you. Thank you.
Right, our top story this morning. The Labour Party's first conference since they got into power is underway in Liverpool. The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, yesterday admitted that the government is facing tough choices, but, she said, change has begun.
Well, today, it's the turn of the Chancellor, who is expected to say Britain must accept hard times or risk ruin. That's as Labour turn a blind eye to the ongoing controversy over the freebies scandal. So what will Rachel Reeves say? To discuss that, let's go to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Big day for her.
A big day for Rachel Reeves today. She's going to try and reset the tone a little bit. What we've heard from Keir Starmer really ever since he took office in July is doom and gloom, all about that £22 billion alleged black hole in public finances, difficult decisions that have to be made. Rachel Reeves will be repeating some of that message, but she will also be talking about potential. She'll be saying that Britain has good days ahead as long as it can seize them. And to do that, she'll be talking about growth. She's going to try and and paint this government as a pro-business government. And to do that, she'll be talking about not raising taxes after this budget. She says that she doesn't want to be a tax and spend chancellor. That message is all a little bit undermined by the fact that Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, is at this very moment doing the final touches on the Workers' Rights Bill, which would make life a lot more difficult for employers and therefore businesses. Rachel Reeves, though, it's not all going to be positive days ahead. There will also be more laying the groundwork for what we are all expecting to be a very, very depressing budget on October the 30th. We already know that VAT on private schools, VAT exemption on private schools will be removed, and that there's going to be a windfall tax on oil and gas companies. We are also very much expecting a rise in capital gains tax and a rise in inheritance tax. Now, Rachel Reeves will try and soften the blow a little bit by suggesting that those who will be the most harmed by the budget will be those with the broadest shoulders, so the parents of children at private schools, oil and gas companies, those with savings or another stream of income who are subject to capital gains tax. But, of course, the pensions, the winter fuel payments is a bit of a fly in the ointment, because it's all very well arguing that only those with the broadest shoulders will face the fallout from this budget. But when you have thousands and thousands of pensioners losing that winter fuel allowance, many of whom very certainly count as ordinary people, it's really difficult to maintain that argument. And I think that'll be made worse by the fact that today there is going to be a protest from the biggest union, Unite, on that decision of Labour to remove winter fuel credits for all but those on pension credits.
And talking about those with the broader shoulders, you also include in that, I suppose, then the parents of children with special educational needs who will be disproportionately affected by this VAT on private schools as well. What about all of this Donor-gate? Because, I mean, every day there's another story in the papers. There's all this talk over the weekend about even Rachel Reeves, who will be doing her big speech today, claiming £7,500 worth of cash for clothing. But she filed that under office expenses. Now, if we were to claim clothing as office expenses, HMRC would be all over us like a rash, and yet she's the boss of HMRC, and I thought that Labour was supposed to be different, where there isn't one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us. How does she answer that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it does feel as though this story is just never ending. Day after day, there is another mini scandal erupting. As you say, this is particularly difficult for Rachel Reeves as the ultimate boss of HMRC. And the sense I've been getting in Liverpool over the last day is that there are quite a lot of Labour MPs and advisors, people who are close to the Labour Party, who are quite frustrated at what they see as a sort of lack of political nous. The very fact that Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, Angela Rayner all seem to think that they were sort of going to get away with this. Just it doesn't smell right for lots and lots of Labour Party members, activists and even MPs. What particularly annoys them is that Keir Starmer did such a good job of running a very tight ship while the Labour Party was in opposition. Ever since Jeremy Corbyn left office, he said he was going to clean up the Labour Party. He ruled with an iron fist. There was real discipline in the party. So many people losing the whip when they disagreed with the Labour leader. And over the election campaign, I mean, they almost didn't put a foot wrong, apart from a mini scandal over Diane Abbott, whether or not she was going to step down. Almost everyone was on message all the way through the election campaign. But as soon as they've got into power, that discipline seems to have gone out of the window. And that's what so many people here in Liverpool are finding so frustrating.
A really quick word on Sue Gray, who a lot of people would say was behind the iron discipline before they came to power, being paid, as we've recently found out, more than the Prime Minister himself. But she won't be attending conference over the next few days. I wonder why.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question. I suppose for someone in her sort of role, being actually at a political conference like this isn't that important, but it could also, of course, be that that salary discussion has really, really undermined her role. Again, this feels like a question of political nous. Sue Gray is earning £3,000 a year more than the Prime Minister, £170,000 to his £167,000. Now, after tax, and of course, they're in a high tax bracket. That is, almost pennies every month that she'll be receiving. So the big question is, why did she choose to take this salary slightly higher than the Prime Minister when she could have just gone £1,000 or so lower than the Prime Minister and avoided this story altogether? In fact, people say that actually she was advised to take just a couple of £1,000s less than the Prime Minister in order to avoid this very story, but she didn't. Now, what is that about? Is it about some sort of arrogance, some sort of desire to show that she's got all the power, that she's pulling all of the strings? That's certainly what plenty of Labour activists and MPs are whispering. Or is it simply, again, that she just doesn't have that much political nous? Either way, it's quite worrying for the Labour Party.
Olivia, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. The time, 10 minutes past 7 o'clock, and today the latest zombie knife ban is coming into force.
Yeah, over the last 4 weeks, the public has been given the opportunity to hand the weapons in at police stations.
Jack Carson went to see some of these weapons recovered in Birmingham.
For those in the West Midlands, it's a familiar sight. A forensic tent and police tape marks the spot where a dangerous weapon was used in an attack. From tomorrow, the law will get tougher, and it will be illegal to own zombie-style knives and machetes, adding to the list of what's already banned, like zombie and butterfly knives and samurai swords. Over the past few weeks, anyone who has one of these weapons has been urged to hand them over at police stations or use a surrender bin. There are 31 surrender bins across this region, and as one was opened, the scale of the problem facing police was made clear. Police and Crime Commissioner for the West Midlands, Simon Foster, says the bins are just one part of the strategy.
And we're absolutely committed to doing everything within our powers in order to ensure that we prevent, tackle and reduce knife crime, protect young and vulnerable people and save lives. This is only but one part of the strategy that we have to prevent, tackle and reduce knife crime. Plainly, we also need robust policing in order to be able to deal with those people who are intent on causing harm to others. In addition to that, we also have to invest in prevention, early intervention, diversion and addressing the underlying causes of crime.
But whilst these knives are on their way to being destroyed, weapons just like them are still on the streets. According to figures from the ONS, the West Midlands has the highest rate of knife crime offences in England and Wales. There were 5,268 offences in the force area between April 2023 and March 2024, giving a rate of 178 per 100,000 of the population. That's higher than the Metropolitan Police Forces, which recorded a rate of 169 per 100,000 people. In Birmingham city centre, the attempts at solving knife crime haven't made people confident.
You see 12-year-olds carrying knives, and I think it's absolutely disgusting that the police aren't doing anything about it.
No, I don't feel safe at all. We're here today for a reason, but we'll be in and out as quick as possible. Don't feel safe at all anywhere, not just Birmingham.
Anything could happen at any moment. You can't predict who will have a weapon and who doesn't have a weapon.
The government says the ban on zombie-style knives is the first step in their plan to halve knife crime within a decade. As this surrender bin is sealed again, will the change in the law make streets safer? Jack Carson, GB News, Birmingham.
A look at some other stories coming into the newsroom on this Monday morning. GB News can exclusively reveal that roughly 25,000 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel. That's so far this year, and half of them in the 11 weeks since Labour took power. This weekend alone, GB News counted more than 1,400 small boat migrants as they arrived in Dover.
Iranian militia group Hezbollah has issued a chilling warning to the West as it says it's entered a new phase of its battle with Israel, describing it as an open-ended conflict. That's as Iran arrests 12 people for apparently collaborating with Israel in last week's pager attacks. Israel has made no claim of responsibility as of yet.
Donald Trump has made a rather unconventional election pledge. The former president has vowed to reach Mars if he's elected to the White House in November. The Republican nominee also promised to bring SpaceX founder Elon Musk with him. Earlier this month, the American billionaire said, "We will never reach Mars if Kamala Harris wins." I could see some people wishing Trump and Elon Musk to go to Mars and stay there.
Would you ever be tempted to go to Mars?
Not until the day it's like Star Trek, that you can be transported and you can speed through space at warp speed and whatever it is. Why on earth would you want to do that for?
I agree.
I don't get all this obsession that there is from... I worry about people like Elon Musk wanting to dominate space.
I think it's a particular niche of, dare I say, men who are slightly fixated on space travel. I don't get it. But anyway, with the weather being so rubbish down here, sometimes I can see the attraction. Jonathan Vaughtry has your forecast today, and the forecast was pretty much suggesting amber warning around the Midlands, but it seems, at least overnight, that has been focused around London a bit more. Here are all the details.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is your GB News weather report provided by the Met Office. We do have quite an unsettled week of weather to come, with most of us seeing rain at some point. But for Monday, it is Wales and England that are the focus point, with this area of low pressure across these regions. This will be bringing some very heavy pulses of rain around at times. The potential is certainly there for some localised flooding, disruption to services and very difficult driving conditions. So do take care over the course of the day. These will be mulling their way around, but we could see some slightly brighter spells developing across the far southeast later on in the afternoon. Temperatures here in that sunshine climbing to 21 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, it's a reasonably cool day, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. There is a broad yellow rain warning in force for much of England and Wales, but we do also have an enhanced amber rain warning also in force for parts of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, up towards the Wash and the Humber. This is where we could see over a month's worth of rain falling during the day, and some disruption is certainly likely here, so please do take care. Generally a cloudy day for Northern Ireland. A few sunny spells trying to poke their way through for Dumfries and Galloway, but we've got a band of rain pushing into the far north of Scotland, and they'll also be turning things fairly damp as it moves its way slowly southwards, with some brisk winds around at times as we head towards the end of the day on Monday also. For most of us overnight, it is going to be rather cloudy, that rain gradually pushing its way eastwards across eastern parts of England, and underneath that cloud, though, it will be still relatively mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, but we're starting to see some cooler, colder conditions moving into the far north of Scotland as northerly winds from the Arctic begin to push their way in. That rain will spread its way into other areas of Scotland during the day, but things will generally turn a bit calmer for Northern Ireland, England, Wales compared to what we will see today. A bit drier, but generally still rather cloudy. Any bright spells still fairly limited. Starting to cool down for all of us now as those northerly winds set their way in, generally between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius. And that cooling trend will continue over the course of the next week, with temperatures dropping below average for many of us. Enjoy your day.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Oh dear, a month's worth of rain in one day is pretty miserable, but here's a way to cheer yourself up. Make sure you are involved in the Great British Giveaway. It is our most generous giveaway of the year.
£3,000 a month, actually, in this case, £36,000 a year, and that could be yours. Here's what you've got to do.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that.
£30,000 cash? Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Yes, you see, that is absolutely fantastic.
Look at the moon. Oh my God, this is amazing.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232.
Most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public.
Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth. Available at gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Now, the government is going to introduce a new eco-tax. This is going to happen in 4 years' time, and it will encourage the uptake of greener technologies.
Around 50% of all household waste which councils collect is burned every year in facilities that produce the same greenhouse gases as 3 million homes.
But despite efforts to make Britain greener, there are concerns that incineration tax will cost as much as £6.5 billion by 2036.
Well, we're going to debate this morning, and we're joined by environmental scientist and commentator Professor Christian Dunn from Bangor University and the co-founder of Climate Debate UK, Ben Pyle.
Ben, could I just start with you, because we're talking about £6 billion by a certain date. Who pays for that ultimately? Because if I've read this correctly, we pay for that as taxpayers.
Yeah, that's right. Households will pay that, and businesses will pay that, and schools, hospitals, and the rest of it will pay that through their charges. We're already taxed quite heavily as it happens already. We pay about 2% of GDP. Well, the environmental taxes that we pay are equivalent to about 2% of GDP. And all these schemes have really done in the past, I think if viewers can remember, if they were council taxpayers in the 2000s, they'll remember that what the directives imposed on the UK by the European Union stopped waste going to landfill. Probably quite rightly. I mean, nobody wants to live near a landfill, and it's not a great thing to do for the environment. But there were taxes at the time of £100 per tonne, if I remember rightly, and that led councils to have to sort of impose many more restrictions on the way they processed waste. So we got these sort of multiplications of wheelie bins in our front gardens, and it also increased council tax, and it degraded the level of service that we had from our councils. So collections started to change from once a week to once every fortnight in many cases.
All right, we get the picture there. We get the picture overall, Ben. Professor, what would you like to add to that?
Well, the issue is we need to cut emissions. So I welcome any action which is based around cutting the emissions. My concern here is very much like a lot of, as you're calling them, eco tariffs, is that the person that pays is the end user, and arguably that is not the right thing to do. If we're serious about cutting emissions, we can't just stick taxes onto things at the end. What we have to do is think holistically about this. We have to think structurally differently in terms of societally thinking differently there. And we need to start looking at making the polluter pay. The issue here is we have too much waste. That's the issue. And a lot of that waste is packaging and unnecessary plastic, often waste, which is being produced by manufacturers and encouraged by organizations like supermarkets. Those are the areas that we should be hitting rather than just whacking, if you want to call it a tax, whatever it may be, at the end user. It's not the right way to go about it. And just speaks to people's back now.
I totally agree. I was reading this morning and I just thought, why are we so short-sighted? This is a man-made problem and our solution is to make us all pay more for it. Yeah. Surely the answer is, I don't need all of my fruit and vegetables wrapped in plastic. I don't need every single box that comes from Amazon to have 6,000 bits of paper inside it. We need to produce less rubbish and then we don't have to burn it and we don't have to pay for it either. Why are we so short-sighted? I don't understand. And all it does is make people anti-eco concepts because they see that they're having to pay for it, and then we do more harm to the environment as well.
Well, people aren't wrapping things in plastic for fun. I mean, there's actually quite minimal amounts of plastic covering most items.
Of course they are. Of course they're wrapping them for fun. They're there for presentation. Most of the stuff is not needed.
If you buy premium products, then for sure they're more likely to be presented in that way. For most things, a packet of biscuits or a loaf of bread, it's just covered in the minimum, or most meats. If you get the butchers, they just get them in a plastic bag. If you want to find out, if you want to look at alternatives to that, you also have to consider the material resource inputs to that. And it turns out that covering things in paper or waxed paper or cotton, those famous tote bags that people like to sort of wear to show their eco-credentials, they're actually more resource intensive. And reusable things, although they sound very good, it turns out that cleaning them, making them hygienic for reuse, uses more resources by way of energy and disposing of the water than the plastic does. So actually, plastic is a very efficient way of preserving things and keeping things clean, and brings enormous benefits. It's very easy to sort of say that this is a problem, that there's an overabundance of plastic, but that needs a comparison. That claim needs a comparison.
Why does our milk need to be in plastic? There's so many examples I can think of. I mean, Professor, what do you think of it all? Well, glass.
I think it's an easy argument to say that plastics helps us loads, and of course it does. And this is the problem here. This is not an easy thing to discuss or sort out. Plastic is not bad. It's allowed us to have modern life, but there is without doubt unnecessary use of plastic. And it's not even in just packaging. Look at our white goods. They are designed to last 2 years, and then you cannot mend them. It's all of this has been built into our society. And don't get me wrong, we need consumerism, obviously, but there needs to be responsible consumerism. Okay. There needs to be responsible use.
Just finally and briefly, Professor, first of all, tax or no tax?
Tax in the right place, not for just the end user.
Yeah, Ben?
No tax.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed. Much appreciated. Thank you very much indeed. Talk about the job of councils and waste. Yesterday, I noticed, I pulled into services yesterday, and on the slip road out there are a lot of articulated lorries parked. Obviously, the guys are sleeping in them, whatever. But behind them, it's all this mattresses and all this sort of rubbish. And you find, people go out of their way where they find places that they can offload and they can dump and whatever. Absolutely ridiculous.
But people have lost connection with nature. They don't value it. They don't care what impact that will have. I don't know what the solution is, but fly tipping definitely
the solution is, Isabel, we build more prisons, bigger prisons, more cells within them, and we throw more yahoos into them.
Or rather than locking them up, get them out there cleaning it up.
That's a good idea.
Then they'll think about
that's a very good
mindfulness.
Idea. And why does that not happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm at a loss as to why we don't do more of that.
OK. Somebody I'd throw in prison, Paul Coit.
No.
But
I'd get him on community service.
He's here today. He's free. He's got the latest sport. He'll be telling you about the world's leading pole climbing competition. You may have thought you don't want to know about it, but when he tells you after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Renfrewshire, the A737 is closed each way between Howard and Kilbarcan after an accident. The M56 in Cheshire is closed eastbound from junction 12 at Runcorn to 11 at Preston Brook after an accident with delays towards there and as you divert. The M1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound between junctions 27 and 26 near Nottingham, causing delays. The M40 in Oxfordshire is partly blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 10 and 9 from Brackley to Bicester. It's taking around half an hour in 5 miles of queues. A number of roads are closed because of flooding after heavy rain. Buckinghamshire, the A422 is closed off the Chichley Hill roundabout. In Bedfordshire, the A421 is closed between the A6 and the M1 because of flooding. And in Devon on the A38, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between Harkham Cross and Kenford. It's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Paul Coit's in the studio. He's not been locked up just yet. I don't know if you heard us talking about that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I've not been locked up just yet.
Just yet. What have you got for us today? Anything arresting?
Oh, very good.
See what I did
Very
there.
good. Very good. Manchester City 2, Arsenal 2. I mean, it was a remarkable game of football because you look at them two, and they're probably the best two footballing teams, I think, in the country, Eamonn. I think it's fair to say, isn't it?
Well, their record speaks for themselves, really, when you look at the top of the table.
Yeah, and it really was. It was a proper ding-dong. There was no hugging. Look, there we are. This is probably at the end of the game here because City scored first. It's at the Etihad. And Erling Haaland again gets another goal. Then, against the odds, so this is just after Erling scored, and then against the... Actually, this is the last goal, the John Stones goal. But against the odds, I'd say Arsenal came back and were 2-1 up. They then get Leandro Trossard sent off. which was crazy because it was kicking the ball away and you don't want to get sent off for that. It really is stupid. It's ridiculous. It's such a waste. And the thing is...
stupid, I mean stupid from him, really.
Yeah, well, I agree. It's absolutely ridiculous because the thing is, you know what the rules are. You can't be doing stuff like that. It's like 8 minutes after the 45 are up. So then Arsenal come out again and as they're 2-1 up, just thinking, well, we're just going to defend for 45 minutes, which they did really, really well until the very end of the game. And the thing is, there was a lot of, shall we say, housery from Arsenal, a lot of rolling around on the floor, a lot of the dark arts that are going on, which I'm not a fan of. But anyway, 8 minutes into the 9 added on.
Their boss, dark arts.
Well, Captain Black. That's what he's all about. So and it's funny because as they were rolling across the floor, I thought it was the floodlights, but there were these circles that were going across the pitch.
Misterons.
It was the Misterons. That's what it was. We said this, like, years ago.
We predicted this.
That this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, John Stones manages to get an equaliser for Manchester City, makes it 2-2. So it was a really, really good game. Interesting one. What about Brighton and Nottingham Forest?
Yeah.
Did you know, though, that they were the only four, or still are, the only four teams that are unbeaten in the Premier League at the moment? So Brighton and Forest still haven't been beaten. That was a great game. Now, the referee, Rob Jones, was actually sent off Morgan Gibbs-White for a foul right at the very end. So there we are. This is the controversy that happened. At first, there was a tackle that came in, and he didn't send him off. Then the fourth official said, I think you better have a look at this. And then he changed his mind, gave him a second yellow. Now, Fabian Hertzler, who is the Brighton manager, was up in arms about this, starts shouting and screaming. He gets a red card because he thought he should have been sent off. Then once he is sent off, the Nottingham Forest manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, he got really upset, and then he got sent off as well.
But should the Brighton manager not have had his card revoked since he was sent off?
But then again, it was fair enough because he was quite offensive about the whole situation, so that's probably going to stand. So two managers get sent off and the player, but ended up 2-2.
OK. One more story, my friend. You choose.
Let's talk about F1, shall we? Singapore, that's McLaren's Lando Norris, dominated the Singapore Grand Prix. Further chunk out of Max Verstappen's lead. Now, the thing about Max Verstappen, which is really interesting, is that he got really told off for swearing. A bit like Isabel in the first hour.
So quoting AJ verbatim, and I apologise immediately.
The blatant potty mouth of Isabel Webster. So then Max Verstappen was dropping the F-bomb during a press conference. So the FIA, who are the governors of Formula One, have actually he's got in so much trouble. They said, you've got to do community service.
Really?
Yeah, he's having to do community service and help the community for his bad language that they said was disgusting. So he was in a press conference after the race.
Yes.
And he was particularly careful about what he said. In fact, he didn't want to say anything. This is Max Verstappen after the race yesterday.
What did you change overnight? Because it seems there's been a big difference in performance lately.
A lot.
Can you elaborate in terms of what you've done?
I might get fined or get an extra day. So,
are you confident, Max, with the race pace?
Maybe.
I mean, how much of a step into the unknown is the race, given the problems you had yesterday in practice?
It's an unknown.
Oh, stop being so petulant. Honestly, he's annoyed because he's been told off for his bad language, so he's having a little strop.
He is having a little strop.
It's so pathetic.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. No, excuse me. It's pathetic. The guy left school umpteen years ago, whatever it is. He is in no position to be told off for his language. The way people get their knickers in a twist, probably not allowed to say that, over bad language in this country really amazes me. What is wrong with bad language?
He's a role model, and you wouldn't use that bad language in front of kids.
It should be normalised.
There will be children watching it.
They all use it.
No,
right.
Do.
I reckon we're somewhere between you. I think you can't be using the bad language in a press conference because, as the FIA said, it's coarse and rude. But also, you know, these things are said. Now, Verstappen was saying, because English is not his mother tongue, which he usually speaks better English than a lot of English people, is that the F-bomb drops in every now and again because he just uses it to explain things. Well, that I don't buy. But he's got in trouble, but there we are. It was a little bit petulant, though, wasn't it?
In Ireland, for instance, we don't say, saw really good film last night.
We're walking on very dangerous ground, aren't we?
They add words to things that are more descriptive, and it doesn't mean anything awful. It just means...
We'll just find another way of doing it. Just be more creative.
No, I just don't know why people get their knickers in a twist about it. I really don't.
There's some really bad swear words which sometimes you used as a friendly thing.
Well, what's your favourite swear word?
Oh, I've got a few.
Well, I know what yours is, Eamonn, because you taught it to my mother, my church-going mother.
And you called me that about half an hour ago.
Uses Eamonn's favourite swear word, and every time she uses it, I'm absolutely dumbfounded.
This could be an Olympic sport. It's called skirting around the issue, being very, very careful. Tippy-tappy.
See an item in this.
Yeah, I think so.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. We're going to be back, and we're going to be asking, how did Mohammed Al-Fayed... Now, there's a man we should have been using swear words against.
There you go.
You see, people too polite to little runts like him.
Well, yeah, but was it just because he was paying everybody off? And there's such a scandal here. We'll be delving into that story after this really quick break. Don't move a muscle.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
When I knew that I was doing this segment this week, I feel like this week was a real homework task for me because I'll be honest, I haven't been around Scottish food much in my life, but I obviously know all the obvious. And I thought I'd bring in a selection of some of, I guess, the sort of the quintessential culinary delights of the North. I mean, we have in front of us haggis.
I think we should begin with some haggis.
So, Michael, I've never eaten haggis before. This is going to be the first time.
Well, have you eaten anything like haggis before? Have you eaten anything that is made from the intestines of an animal?
I mean, I've had things like chopped liver and, you know, a bit of offal here and there.
Well, there we are. I mean, I got a great surprise. I was holding when I was in government, I was holding a great party in Scotland, and I had a lot of Spanish visitors, and I was offering them haggis, and I thought that they would be astonished by haggis and maybe repelled. But when they ate it, they said, oh, no, this is morcilla. So, you know, there is an equivalent in Spain.
Absolutely.
So if I recall, and you've probably been mugging it up, which I have not, but haggis is made within the stomach of a sheep.
Yes.
And you take the heart and the lungs and some other part of the sheep and you mash it up.
With onions, oatmeal, suet.
Yes.
And it's stuffed into the sheep's stomach. But a lot of the haggis you get these days, especially sort of the slightly cheaper varieties in supermarkets, it's usually an artificial casing. Oh. You know what? This is actually quite nice.
I think it's absolutely heavenly. And
it's very savoury.
To me, it's two things. Yes, to me, it's two things. It's both the taste and the texture. You quite rightly refer to the oatmeal going in there. So it's got this crunchy, granular sort of texture. Marvellous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Newspapers, we do that in the company of Nicky Hodgson and Don Neeson this morning. Very good to see you guys. We were all sitting talking during the break about Mohammed Al-Fayed and how he got away with molesting so many people, maybe worse than molesting. What would you like to say about this?
Well, I'm not surprised, to be honest. There were so many stories for many years circulating, rumours, let's say. But, I mean, of somebody of his status, with his money and power, he could basically do whatever he wanted. And the reason I say that is because today, in this country, if you're raped and you know who the rapist is and you go and report that rapist, there's, you know, a sort of 5% chance that they'll actually be charged with a crime. We've basically decriminalised rape and sexual assault anyway for anybody. So if you're somebody of this kind of privilege, you'll never be held to account. I mean, at least he is now. At least women are coming forward with their stories now, which has to be positive in some way. But we have to learn from this.
There's lots of questions about who knew and who aided and abetted him. Talk about his Ghislaine, this blonde woman who procured ladies for him to rape. But let's take a listen, shall we, to Tom Bauer. He appeared last night on GB News. He wrote an unauthorised biography of Fayed in 1998, and he didn't speak very highly of him. Let's have a listen.
A gangster, a monster, a man who ran around London corrupting police, buying off lawyers, intimidating people who complained about him, whether innocent or not, the women, the employees of Harrods, a man who had literally lied his way into buying Harrods and lied throughout his whole life, and was a total crook. I mean, he was a deeply, deeply unpleasant man, but had this great act of giving money out, giving presents out, appearing like a cuddly bear. But in fact, he was a very sinister, bad man.
Dawn, how did they get away with it?
I have no idea, because people did know, and unlike Jimmy Savile, people did... I mean, I made an official complaint about him as well, but rich, powerful men, as Nikki said...
You made an official complaint about Al Fayed?
About Al Fayed,
Who did you make an official complaint
Well, because when I was running the newspaper, I sent a young reporter to interview him, and in his office at Harrods, and he said something. She was young, she was pretty, she was blonde. That's neither here nor there in the great scheme of things, but to Al Fayed it was. We know his type now. And she walked into his office, a private office, and he said something incredibly inappropriate to her. Was the very first thing he said. She came straight back to me. Thankfully, she had a woman boss. She felt OK saying this was not right. I was very uncomfortable. He didn't touch her. He just said something very inappropriate. I made a complaint about it, and nothing was done. So everybody knew. Lots of complaints were made. My big question with this story is why the CPS didn't do anything. There was an official complaint made in 2009 and again in 2015, and they decided there was not enough evidence to prosecute this man. I'm sorry, but there was. And I do, as like Nikki was saying, women making complaints about sexual assault and rape are ignored. We saw it in Rotherham, we've seen it with Al Fayed. Whereas Operation Midland, where it was a man making a complaint about, you know, the celebrity paedophile ring, allegedly, that wasn't, the CPS were all over that like a rash.
Well, that's tip of the iceberg, isn't it? There's been so many people coming forward about this, but of course he died, a year ago? Yes. Can't answer any of these allegations and can't be tried for them either. No. So it's quite a...
Meanwhile, how many women's lives have been ruined over this?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think when you see some of the stories, you know, women talking about this, and you realise you're talking about very credible people in this situation and what they had to put up with the little runt. But the thing that really worries me is I speak as a man who would never defile a woman or touch her inappropriately or do anything like that. Happy to stand up and say that hand on heart would never enter my mind, never happen. But increasingly I hear of people who are motor mechanics, who work in shops, who do... And it is natural for them. It is absolutely standard
just
practice.
Look at this trial in France.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say,
This husband that set up this situation for his wife to be raped by all these local men,
policemen,
not just
all sorts of people.
particular kind of man found on the internet, men in the local area, and it tells you something so disturbing about what lots of men might do to you if they got the chance.
And they're tolerated by people in their community. People in their community know who they are and what they do.
Well, men know about other men, and so this is a big part of men have to tell other men.
That relates to these Asian grooming gangs in the country as well, how they were allowed to get away with what they got away with for so long, because there were lots of people in their community that knew exactly what they did and when they did it.
Yeah, and the victim shaming. It's sort of like women are not believed. And when I was talking about this at the weekend to somebody, I actually had a man say to me, he goes, yeah, but women make stories up and you can't trust.
But they don't.
Seriously?
And they don't.
Seriously?
I mean, rape is no more falsely reported than any other crime. And it's about 3% of people make false claims. It's very important.
What I love about that shocking story in France is that she waived her anonymity.
It's
because
just
she
incredible.
wanted her moment to humiliate.
She is a true...
She's a really strong person.
Yeah.
But even though she didn't remember it.
No.
So, you know, it's shocking.
So she has to sit there and listen to all those stories.
And her children.
Yeah.
You know, hearing their father. Anyway.
Tom, let's talk about tradespeople, because this is something that just mystifies me in this country. I've got to put a lot of the blame to Tony Blair and his Labour government at the time. But
we scarily think alike on this one, eh?
Yeah, I do.
Everyone should go to university. No, not everyone should go to university.
And I think the thing is, maybe because I'm from a family where there's so many tradespeople and this is important, and how any of us get through our lives without carpenters and plumbers and electricians and whatever, you think you need these things. But someone in the Labour government of that time thought, no, we don't need these. We need people going to polytechnics and universities. And why?
I know. Well, this is a survey by Checkatrade, which it's a website that puts people in touch with their contractors. And they have found that 1.3 million new skilled workers and 350,000 apprentices are needed to meet the demand for tradespeople, builders, plumbers, you know, scaffolders, you know, people that do the basic stuff. The report is saying it's like with an improving economy, hopefully, lower interest rates and accelerated planning processes, which is one of the things Labour are doing, building more houses, we're going to need more builders. But we just don't have the people being trained for it. We've got the building population is retiring, they're getting older, so they're sort of like stepping down. We don't have enough builders in this country to do all the work that is going to happen. So there'll be 1.3 million more tradesmen or women needed.
We need to, whoever thought this up and couldn't foresee what was going to happen here, we need to send them to some sort of course.
You know, I've never met a poor builder either.
No, but there's also don't forget the Brexit effect on all of this as well, because there were all these sort of Polish builders and the like who weren't able to stay.
But the Polish builders shouldn't have been here in the first place.
Shouldn't have needed them.
Because
yeah,
we
but
should
a whole
have had
bunch
our
of them
own people.
did go.
Yeah.
But I would just like to say, I walk around with a terrible shame in life that I actually feel that I am useless, that I don't have any skill at all.
That's true.
Because everybody, well, it's true. Everybody I know has a trade and a skill and something they can do. So if you said to me...
change a tyre.
Change a tyre. Well, I can change a tyre,
Fit a
but
wardrobe.
I said that. No, I couldn't fit a wardrobe.
Hang a picture.
No, I couldn't.
Drill a hole in the wall?
There's very little I can do.
I can't do that.
Did you drill a hole in the wall?
Well, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't trust myself to do.
Me neither,
But the point is, why shouldn't I? Why isn't that part of my basic upbringing? And I should have done that, and I feel bad that I don't do that. So I epitomise.
Blame your dad.
What's here? Well, my dad could do everything.
No, I know, but he didn't teach you. Nikki, bacon butties make you saucy. Apparently, if you have a bacon sandwich, 11% of people get touchy-feely afterwards.
I've never heard so much rubbish in my life. I'm sorry. Right on cue. Actually, it's 13% of people feel that...
Put that away, Eamonn.
Rashes make
don't
them
need
randy.
any of that.
I can't see why a bacon butty would make you randy.
Well, maybe it's just to do with the dopamine release in your brain. It's pleasure, and then you associate pleasure with something else. I presume that's the science behind it.
It's just like a full English. It's an aphrodisiac.
Apparently, full English.
Is this sponsored by
it's sponsored by Bingo Company, which I don't know what the logic is to their research. But have you ever wanted to get it on after eating full English? No. Oh my goodness, you can't move.
No.
Ridiculous.
I think bananas were number 2 in the poll, weren't they?
Bananas make you saucy.
Yeah.
Well, they've got potassium in them.
Either. I thought you have a banana before you go to bed because it helps you sleep, not because it means your husband's going to start bothering you. Oh, dear.
You never bothered
or your wife.
husband.
Yeah,
okay.
You see,
I don't know.
It's the enriched potassium that goes into
exactly, it's the potassium.
Following the banana.
We know.
All right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, well, yeah. Let us know if you think that there's any truth in this story.
I like bananas on toast.
So do I.
I like that.
What about with bacon at the same time?
No, just banana on toast.
I love banana on toast with peanut butter.
Yes,
and cinnamon.
Right.
Have you ever had that?
No. Don't like
I feel like you just don't like food in general.
I'm not a big foodie, it has to be
You're not a
said.
big foodie.
Not a big foodie.
It's wasted on you. Right, we're going to have more from both of these two at around 8:30 or 20 to 9, thereabouts. But for now, we say thank you very much, Nicky Hodgson and to Dawn Neeson.
We're going to talk about how wet it was last night and into today. Jonathan Vaughtry, good morning to you.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is your GB News weather report provided by the Met Office. We do have quite an unsettled week of weather to come, with most of us seeing rain at some point. But for Monday, it is Wales and England that are the focus point, with this area of low pressure across these regions. This will be bringing some very heavy pulses of rain around at times. The potential is certainly there for some localised flooding, disruption to services and very difficult driving conditions. So do take care over the course of the day. These will be mulling their way around, but we could see some slightly brighter spells developing across the far southeast later on in the afternoon. Temperatures here in that sunshine climbing to 21 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, it's a reasonably cool day, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. There is a broad yellow rain warning in force for much of England and Wales, but we do also have an enhanced amber rain warning also in force for parts of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, up towards the Wash and the Humber. This is where we could see over a month's worth of rain falling during the day, and some disruption is certainly likely here, so please do take care. Generally a cloudy day for Northern Ireland, a few sunny spells trying to poke their way through for Dumfries and Galloway, but we've got a band of rain pushing into the far north of Scotland, and they'll also be turning things fairly damp as it moves its way slowly southwards, with some brisk winds around at times as we head towards the end of the day on Monday also. For most of us overnight, it is going to be rather cloudy, that rain gradually pushing its way eastwards across eastern parts of England, and underneath that cloud, though, it will be still relatively mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, but we're starting to see some cooler, colder conditions moving into the far north of Scotland as northerly winds from the Arctic begin to push their way in. That rain will spread its way into other areas of Scotland during the day, but things will generally turn a bit calmer for Northern Ireland, England and Wales compared to what we will see today. A bit drier, but generally still rather cloudy, any bright spells still fairly limited. Starting to cool down for all of us now as those northerly winds set their way in, generally between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius, and that cooling trend will continue over the course of the next week, with temperatures dropping below average for many of us. Enjoy your day.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Renfrewshire, the A737 is closed each way between Howard and Johnston after an accident. On the M6 in Greater Manchester, 2 lanes are closed northbound, where there's a shed load between junctions 24 and 25 near Ashton in Makerfield. There are queues from junction 23 at Haydock, and southbound queues past the scene from junction 26. The M56 in Cheshire is closed eastbound from junction 12 at Runcorn to 11 at Preston Brook after an accident, with delays towards there from junction 14 at Helsby. On the M4 to the west of London, the inside lanes closed eastbound, where a car's broken down at junction 2 at Brentford, with queues back onto the A4 through Chiswick. The M2 in Kent is blocked westbound by an accident between junctions 3 and 2 near Rochester, causing queues. And in Wiltshire, the A360 is closed after an accident on the High Street at West Lavington, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
There's an incredible £36,000 to be won in the Great British Giveaway. That's like having an extra £3,000 each month to play with. And because it's totally tax-free, you get to keep every penny and spend it however you like. We could be paying for your entire year until 2025. How amazing would that be? For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus
3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello there. The Chancellor Rachel Reeves will tell the Labour conference today that she's never felt more optimistic about the economy.
Well, that's despite her warnings that the country will face ruin if things don't change.
And Labour is donating its donations row threatens to overshadow the conference as union criticise winter fuel cuts, while some ministers are basking in freebies.
A GB News exclusive for you this morning, as it's revealed 25,000 migrants have crossed the Channel since January, with some 12,000 coming since Labour took power.
The latest ban on zombie knives kicks in today, but is it enough to keep us safe?
And it's being dubbed Pubmageddon, as it's revealed more than 50 pubs a month are closing on average in the first half of this year.
As local councils are pushed to the brink thanks to new tax on burning rubbish, we ask whether it's time to stop the eco-war.
And sport this morning, Manchester City get a 2-2 draw in the last minute of the game against 10-man Arsenal. Another 2-2 draw between Brighton and Nottingham Forest, with both managers getting sent off. And Harry Kane breaks another record and celebrates in Lederhosen, which is just outside Bayern Munich, by the way, for Oktoberfest.
We've got an unsettled week of weather ahead of us, and an amber rain warning is already enforced across some areas today. So please do join me later for all the details.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So here we are into Labour Party's first conference in power, and it's well underway in Liverpool.
Well, yeah, debating whether it's well underway. In her speech yesterday, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner admitted that the government is facing tough choices and that change has begun.
So apparently that change, Paul, involves hiring a photographer to photograph behind the scenes. Now, have you any desire to photograph us behind the scenes? I actually think it'd be quite good.
Yeah, but I don't know if you need to do that. I mean, that's what social media is for.
You're
just take a snap
documenting
on
history.
Your phone.
I will, Doc. I'll just follow you around, and we've had enough trouble with that. I mean, you don't want me to take photographs of you behind the scenes. So I will do it for cash, of course. Of course I will.
You'll be the only one not to.
I'll be going, no. Yeah. I'll take the picture of Daley Thompson instead.
Well, today...
Daley Thompson, I met Daley Thompson. I was with Daley Thompson for a week.
Yeah, well, I saw he was in the queue, yeah.
You saw him what?
Well, I saw a picture. He was in the queue, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I saw him there.
Didn't see any mention of him, but really nice guy.
Yeah.
I get on very, very well.
Yeah. It's because you're similar athletes, that's what it is.
If only that was the case.
Right, so today we're going to be hearing from the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. She's taking the floor at conference and is expected to say in an uplifting speech that the UK must accept hard times or risk ruin, although that is despite a pledge to be the government of growth.
Well, to discuss all of this and much more, our political correspondent Olivia Utley. Rachel Reeves, she's going to speak, what, noon today?
Yes, she is. She'll be speaking at midday today. It is supposed to be a slightly less gloomy message than what we've been hearing from Keir Starmer since he was elected back in July. She will say that Britain has a lot of potential, it just needs to seize it, but then almost in the same breath she's going to say that we are facing economic ruin unless we make difficult choices. So a little bit more cheerful, but perhaps nothing to really smile about. She's going to try and paint the Labour Party as the party of growth. She's going to say that Labour is pro-business. She's going to promise business that she will not be raising taxes after that October the 30th budget. All of that is slightly undermined by the fact that Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, is at the moment drafting that Workers' Bill of Rights, which is going to make life a lot more difficult for employers and therefore, of course, for businesses. We will also hear perhaps a little bit more, although we are expecting Reeves to keep her cards pretty close to her chest, about who might be affected by tax rises in that October the 30th budget. We already know that private schools are going to lose their VAT exemption, and we know that there's going to be a windfall tax on oil and gas. We are also very much expecting there to be a rise on inheritance tax and capital gains tax. Now, the logic behind all of that is Rachel Reeves says that she wants those with the broadest shoulders to bear the brunt of the economic hardship, so those with savings earnings, those with another form of income through capital gains, those with children at private schools, etc. That said, that message doesn't really sit very well when, of course, the Labour Party has just brought in this removal of the winter fuel allowance for all but the poorest of pensioners. Now, there will be lots of people arguing, both from the Labour side and also, of course, from the Conservatives, that if pensioners are going to be so badly affected by this budget, then you can't really say that only those with the broadest shoulders will feel the burden of it. And what makes this much harder and sort of more salient for the Prime Minister and for Rachel Reeves is that today there is going to be a protest from Unite, the largest union, over those winter fuel cuts. Keir Starmer and Reeves are so far adamant that the fuel cuts will go ahead, even though there has been so much discord around it. Let's see where we are in a couple of weeks' time.
And meanwhile, Freebiegate rolling on. You've got all these headlines like Free Gear, Keir, and Rachel Reeves herself being embroiled in it all. Lots of allegations in the papers over the weekend about £7,500 in clothing that she registered as office expenses, which, by the way, none of us are allowed to do with HMRC when we come to file our tax returns. But she's been defending that this morning, saying that she'd been friends with the donor for years, and she said that she would make her look great for the election campaign and other things while she's out and about. It has absolutely no apology in there, no recognition of why this looks so bad. And as Alicia Kearns said yesterday, that, you know, this is about misleading the public. She said Labour offered a government of service, but all they've shown is a government of self-service with latent efforts to mislead. Office costs turn out to be clothes, and a holiday for one is a romantic getaway for two. And that's in reference to the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, and not declaring properly that her ex-boyfriend joined her on her freebie trip, which she was expected to do according to the rules.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is all really awkward for all sorts of Labour ministers. What makes matters worse is that it feels as though some of these conference speeches that we're hearing now were written before the Freebiegate scandal and weren't really updated. At the start of the conference, it opened with a blistering attack on Tory cronyism and Tories handing out, parcels to their friends, making life easy for their friends. That message doesn't sit so well when it transpires that various Labour ministers have been receiving these freebies. I think it is particularly awkward for Rachel Reeves because, of course, ultimately she is the boss of HMRC. And as you say, Isabel, you or I definitely could not get away with expenses, clothes as office expenses. I think this story is going to linger around Labour like a bad smell over the next few days. And it's certainly very uncomfortable. I just walked past, actually, Keir Starmer having a very intense discussion with his chief of comms over breakfast this morning. I would love to have been a fly on the wall.
Being photographed? You're talking about the photograph, Angela Rayner's photographer on the loose.
Were they being photographed, Olivia, when you saw him?
Oh, sorry. I couldn't hear what you were saying there. No, there was no photographers there. I just happened to catch it through the window. But I wonder what that was about. I hope someone nearby was listening.
And Olivia, he wasn't in intense conversations, of course, with Sue Gray. She's pulling a sickie for conference this year.
Yes, she's not going to be at conference this year. Lord Ali, that donor who has given out all of those freebies to all of those ministers, really at the very centre of this sort of spider's web, he has been at conference, but rumour has it that he's already been and gone. Sue Gray is staying at home altogether. I think that's really, really interesting development. There are plenty of special advisors who are really angry that Sue Gray is earning so much, £170,000, £3,000 more than the Prime Minister. Lots of people briefing suggesting that she's power hungry, that she's a bit of a power maniac. Perhaps she has been told this conference to keep her distance. Certainly there is a lot of anger swirling about this, and it doesn't look like it's going to die down anytime soon, particularly as I've spoken to some Labour special advisors who say that before they were in power, they were actually on more money than they were on now they've been elected. So it's not surprising that there's quite a lot of resentment there towards Sue Gray.
Olivia, you talk about anger, but the thing that amazes me more than anything is that you've got a socialist government here which is taking away winter fuel payments from the elderly. Now, there must be anger. How much anger? And what are the unions saying about it?
There is a lot of anger here. The unions are very, very unhappy indeed. We're expecting quite a sizable protest today at Labour Party conference, which is possible, likely to overshadow Rachel Reeves's speech a little later on. It's interesting that the Prime Minister and Chancellor are digging their heels in to such an extent over this. There has been so much discontent, both within the Labour Party parliamentary ranks and, of course, within the wider party. Of course, Keir Starmer was able to get this through Parliament because he has this enormous majority that we are also aware of after that general election a couple of months ago. But there is so much consternation here. And in the vote a few weeks ago, there were 53 Labour MPs who abstained. They didn't actually go as far as to rebel and vote with the Conservatives. One did, but 53 of them abstained. That is not a good look for a new Prime Minister. And I don't think that anger is going to die down anytime soon, particularly if this turns out to be a cold, hard winter. And if the weather today is anything to go by, then perhaps it could be.
OK, thanks, Olivia. Thanks very much.
Appreciate that. Your views very, very welcome on this. Have your say this morning and let us know. Meanwhile, you're having your say about zombie knives. The problem is zombie parents and all of this one. Name and shame the companies, says Thomas, that are selling these knives. Very good point, that. Brand says, is it me or does anyone else believe that this government and police forces are pathetic? Knives are already banned and have been for decades. They need to get a grip with people carrying these and not worry about their human rights and protect ours with actions, not words.
Yeah. Let's talk about Pubmageddon now, shall we? More than 50 pubs a month, on average, were lost in England and Wales during the first half of this year. That's according to new
So in
analysis.
6 months, that's how many we've lost then?
Oh, I don't know, to be honest.
That will be 300.
OK.
That's a lot.
I'll take your
That's
word
a lot,
for it.
yes. Right, that is an awful lot.
OK, that's our back of
I
the
didn't think there were
backpack
that many pubs in the whole country.
Well, there won't be any left before long.
But it is ridiculous. What is the point until somebody is going to have to step in and say pubs are a protected area or species?
But when was the last time you went to a pub for a drink?
Yesterday.
Oh. I can't remember when I last went. Because
And I don't even drink.
No, I know, but I mean, people go there to eat, and I think
Yeah.
that's fair enough. Although the cost of living now, a meal in a pub is not affordable for a lot of people anymore. But to go for a drink, you know, it's just so expensive. People would rather, if they're paying the money to heat their home, just stay at home and have a drink there. But it means then we're losing them. If we don't use them, we lose them. So anyway, experts are saying...
There's that very nice little pub down the road from you.
Yeah.
Do you go to that?
Well, not as often as I should, yeah. But we do try. I do it out of guilt,
But you've got children which you have to worry about being minded and
they're a
whatever.
pain in a pub. No one wants my kids in the pub. But my kids want to work there one day, so I'm really hoping it doesn't close down so that they can then go and be
Well, that's what I always thought I would do. I always thought that I just thought I'd be a bar manager.
Very nice too. Well, experts are saying the overall number of pubs, including those which were vacant or being offered to let, fell to nearly 40,000 at the end of June.
So why are pubs basically going out of fashion? That's what we're asking today. And what can be done to turn their fortunes around?
Well, let's speak to the Director of Strategy and Policy for the British Beer and Pub Association, Andy Tye. Good morning to you, Andy. I don't know how much of that discussion you heard, but, you know, apart from going to eat, where it's pretty expensive to go out in the current climate, you know, fewer and fewer people are going out to drink, and it means if you don't use it, you lose it.
Well, there is that real risk if you don't use it, that you lose it. But actually, there is continued appetite to go to the pub. We've seen that post-pandemic. People want to go out again. People want to enjoy themselves again. And it's not so much that there's a lack of desire to go to the pub or support it. It really is the cost of doing business for those pubs. So obviously, through the pandemic and lockdown was incredibly tough. And after that, there was an energy crisis, general inflation, and the cost of everything has rocketed. And pubs are only now making less than 12p on every pint of beer they sell. Which is not enough to sustain them going forward, which is why we see these continued closures.
Andy, yesterday I was out in the countryside and I was driving along and I saw this beautiful pub and it said for sale. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, now why would that be for sale?
Did you think, oh, I'll have that?
I think I wouldn't put my money into it. Because
but wouldn't that be a nice way to retire? You could run the bar.
No, but it'd be hard work. It'd be really, really hard work.
Yeah.
That's my point. What looks idyllic and what looks like, you know, it should be part of all our lives and whatever it is. It's not. It was in the countryside. It looked really good. But I was looking at Andy and I was thinking, how could you make money out of that? I mean, you were answering that and just saying basically how difficult it is, which leads me to the point, are pubs an endangered species? Are we going to get to the stage where they will be a complete rarity?
Not for a long time, Eamonn, I don't think. Why that is there's still 45,000 of them across the UK, in every part of the UK. The sector as a whole generates over 1 million jobs, over 700,000 of those in pubs. So there's still a lot of pubs out there generating a huge amount of economic activity. And you mentioned about working in pubs when you were young. 49% of people that work in pubs are under 24. So it's a huge opportunity for young people getting their first job on the career ladder and having a great career in pubs and hospitality ultimately. But then there's the other thing that people obviously sometimes overlook, and it's that social value that pubs offer. You know, we've got huge challenges in this country with social isolation, with mental health, and pubs play a really important role in bringing people together, in tackling sort of isolation and loneliness in their area. So I don't think they're an endangered species by any means, because there's a real desire to continue to support pubs across the country. But you're right, people need to be able to afford to go for a drink in a pub.
Is there anything...
You know, prices have gone up and up because of the cost of doing business.
Is there anything pubs can do to make themselves more appealing? I know that a lot of pubs have put, and it's controversial, I know what you're going to think about it, but they put play frames in the garden to try and attract families in. Some people say, bring your dogs in. You know, great menu here, or, you know, a steak night on this night, whatever. Is there more that can be done? Are some of them languishing a little bit?
I think, you know, pubs are looking at all sorts of ways to continue to stay relevant and attract new customers, whether that's through, as you say, appealing to more families with play areas, with focus on the food offer, with accommodation, putting on new accommodation at the back and repurposing rooms. People love staying in idyllic country pubs in the country, and then now they'll eat and drink there. You know, tourists love to come to the UK and stay in a great British pub. So there's all sorts of things that pubs are doing to innovate, as well as just selling alcohol. Of course, we've seen a big explosion in non-alcoholic beers, a huge growth area this year, which again is great for those wanting to go to the pub, have a beer, but don't drink alcohol or, you know, are driving. So there's things that pubs are continuing to do, but what the pubs really need is actually a proper long-term tax and fiscal framework from the government to put them on a sustainable footing. You know, it's crazy that £1 in every 3 spent over the bar goes to the tax man. You know, the tax man's taking £1.52 in every pint, and the publican's taking 12p.
Yeah,
and we've got a big further cliff edge coming up in March when the current business rates relief ends. So even small community pubs will be facing a £12,000 business rates bill. And these are the things that are keeping publicans awake at night, unfortunately.
Good point, Andy. Andy Taggs from the British Beer and Pub Association. Thank you very much indeed for your thoughts. And I think that man's hit it on the head there. And until we all wake up to the fact that the taxation in this country,
business rates,
it's the indirect taxation. It's not even what they do with your PAYE or whatever. It's not even that. It's everything. Your value-added tax, everything. Everything's taxable. Everything. You go to buy a house, sell a house. Everything. Everything. They're into everything. So even when you go to the pub, you're being taxed disproportionately as well. How the hell any of us have any money left, I don't know. I just don't know. It's a bad situation. The lovely, great thing about a pub, whether you drink or whether you don't drink, is the sociability.
Absolutely.
I think the fact there's a difference between if I rang your front door bell and said, "Hello, Isabel, you coming out to play?" or whatever. When you go out to the pub and
everybody's out to play.
Yes, your demeanour is different. You're more relaxed about things and whatever, and I think people just open up. They lighten up, and it's a very, very nice thing. And we should be very, very careful of these things that we will lose.
Through our fingers, absolutely.
And is it really better sitting drinking at home than it is
definitely not. You
outside?
probably drink more as well. You open a bottle and you end up finishing it, whereas you have to get up and keep going back to the bar, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a shame. But then I'm a hypocrite because I'm not supporting my pub as often as I am drinking
Well,
at
I
home.
suppose it's, you give up pubs and you take on Netflix or prime or whatever it is, or something else like that.
Right, the weather absolutely miserable out there, and actually lots of weather warnings have been updated, and we're hearing about lots of flooding, particularly I think around Hitchin and other parts of the home counties this morning. I'm just trying to find the update that I saw this morning. I'll get an update for you whilst Jonathan Vaughtry gives you the forecast.
That lot of issue.
Dunstable and Hitchin, there you go, partly submerged.
Thank goodness
Found
for that. I think I'd rather rely on Jonathan Vaughtry. Here he is.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is your GB News weather report provided by the Met Office. We do have quite an unsettled week of weather to come, with most of us seeing rain at some point. But for Monday, it is Wales and England that are the focus point, with this area of low pressure across these regions. This will be bringing some very heavy pulses of rain around at times. The potential is certainly there for some localised flooding, disruption to services and very difficult driving conditions. So do take care over the course of the day. These will be mulling their way around, but we could see some slightly brighter spells developing across the far southeast later on in the afternoon. Temperatures here in that sunshine climb to 21 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, it's a reasonably cool day, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. There is a broad yellow rain warning in force for much of England and Wales, but we do also have an enhanced amber rain warning also in force for parts of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, up towards the Wash and the Humber. This is where we could see over a month's worth of rain falling during the day, and some disruption is certainly likely here, so please do take care. Generally a cloudy day for Northern Ireland, a few sunny spells trying to poke their way through for Dumfries and Galloway, but we've got a band of rain pushing into the far north of Scotland, and they'll also be turning things fairly damp as it moves its way slowly southwards, with some brisk winds around at times as we head towards the end of the day on Monday also. For most of us overnight, it is going to be rather cloudy, that rain gradually pushing its way eastwards across eastern parts of England, and underneath that cloud though it will be still relatively mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, but we're starting to see some cooler, colder conditions moving into the far north of Scotland as northerly winds from the Arctic begin to push their way in. That rain will spread its way into other areas of Scotland during the day, but things will generally turn a bit calmer for Northern Ireland, England, Wales compared to what we will see today. A bit drier, but generally still rather cloudy, any bright spells still fairly limited. Starting to cool down for all of us now as those northerly winds set their way in, generally between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius, and that cooling trend will continue over the course of the next week, with temperatures dropping below average for many of us. Enjoy your day.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Great British giveaway. We are going to give away £36,000 and it could be yours.
You could be the next Great British giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that.
£30,000 cash. Oh my God.
Years old. If it is the Bard, it could be worth north of £200 million.
Steve, welcome to GB News. First of all, just explain how you came to have this painting in your possession.
It was sat there all my lifetime, sort of thing, while I was growing up, above the television in the corner. It was only back about 12 years ago that a visitor, she said, "Oh, I think it looks like William Shakespeare, or, I like your copy of William Shakespeare," and was shocked to see it was an original painting. So it was only then that I started researching, and the different institutions have helped with the x-rays and all the rest of it. But then, is it actually Shakespeare? Well, all the facial comparisons, technology, everything like that, all matches with the Droeshout, which is the only known 2D image of Shakespeare. And who do you go to find that out?
There's a suggestion in the Sun's write-up of this story that you've been struggling to be heard in the academic world, the lofty art world. It's all a bit snooty. It's about who you know, and you're a tradesman.
Yes. That is definitely true in some avenues, but then I have to say, and it's lovely to be able to have this opportunity to say it, there's other people in that world that have been fabulous. It's taken a long time to sort of get listened to. We want the discussion out there because all the evidence that we've got indicates that this really should be discussed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The Britain I grew up in was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here's Paul with what's gone on over the weekend.
Arsenal 2. Well, it was Manchester City 2, Arsenal 2.
Yes.
It was a hell of a game. Two best sides in the Premier League. Firstly, it was a game in the first... It was a tale of two halves, quite frankly, because then we had 10-man Arsenal, then had to keep away Man City for the whole of the second half. Man City got an equaliser right at the very end. So, I mean, Mikel Arteta... See, this is the game. Mikel Arteta, let's see him before the game. If there's a picture of him, I think we've got before, and you can see the difference of how he looks, which is quite... Look, that's him before the game.
Yes.
See, looking concerned, but looking confident. This is him after the game. There we are. See, looks very, very unhappy, you can see by the look in his face. Extremely unhappy about how things gone. So Man City 2, Arsenal 2, the other game, which was also a really good game. All four teams are still unbeaten in the Premier League. That's Brighton and Nottingham Forest. And that was Brighton 2, Nottingham Forest 2, but both managers got sent off in that game. Look, there's Morgan Gibbs-White getting sent off. And then straight after that, Fabian Hürzeler and then Nuno Espirito Santo, the manager of Nottingham Forest, got sent off as well. You know who's doing really well?
Who?
Harry Kane is doing extremely well.
Yeah.
And he's just breaking records left, right and centre. And playing for Bayern Munich there, over in Germany, he's become the highest scoring Englishman in Bundesliga history. Now, we had Tony Woodcock, who played for Cologne, 39 goals in 131 games. Jadon Sancho, 40 in 118. Harry Kane, 41 goals in 36 games.
Seriously?
41 goals in 36 games. Unbelievable record. So for those that think he's finished, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
So he celebrated at Oktoberfest in Bavaria yesterday. Can we see Harry Kane? So there he is. Now that's obviously Vincent Kompany. And there's Thomas Muller there, because the whole team do this, because obviously Munich, that's where... Oktoberfest is, the whole team. Oh, look, Eric Dyer there, dressed up in lederhosen, so I don't know whether they sink as many beers as everybody else does, but they all have a lovely time.
Well, I've seen everybody but Harry Kane.
That's a big one.
It is a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you seen my big one?
Well, I haven't seen Harry yet.
Look at that. Look at the size of that one. Look at the size of that. You see that? That's a full one.
Is that a jug or is that a mug?
That is what they drink. It's like, what about 1-2 litre? So there's also do you remember we spoke about there's a sport that they have in Germany which is holding, which you hold it out, and it's how long, this is full of beer, how long you can actually hold it out for. So you had a go at this. We did this last year, didn't we? Do you remember?
Probably, yeah.
But we didn't drink it.
Did I win?
No, you did actually win.
Of course.
But if you want to see how impressive, this should be a sport, how impressive some of the waiters and waitresses are at Oktoberfest, have a look at this. By the way, how many do you think they could hold in one go? Two hands.
Two hands, say 3 in each hand.
Six. Yeah.
6.
6? I think we've got... Have we got the video of this? Look at this. Now, watch this girl here. 1, 2... 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So she goes 6 in each hand.
No.
This is unbelievable. I tell you, this is absolutely magnificent. And if you can imagine the weight with beer in as well. There we are. There's the 6. So she's going 6 for the other hand. She's putting all the handles in the middle.
Good lad.
My word.
Look at all this. Look at all this. There we are. There's one. Put that on top of the other one.
That's like a tray.
It's incredible. And she just holds all of those. And there's room for one on the top, in the middle, and then away she goes.
So that's 13.
13 of those beer steins that she will then go off and serve at Oktoberfest.
She's only a slight wee thing as well.
Well, that's why.
Look at
big
that.
biceps.
Lifting weights.
By the way, I just want to make clear there is no camera trickery
That's the
in this at
13th
all.
there.
There we are. Up we go. Look at that.
look
And off
at
she
that.
goes.
Go, girl.
No hanging about.
Look at that. Still, I'm getting a bit wobbly now with an empty one as well. But there we are.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Did we do some sport in there? There was some sport.
You did lots. You covered everything there.
Covered
Thank
it
you
all.
very much indeed. Right, a rebellion is brewing. Yep. Over Labour's winter fuel tax raid. We'll be speaking to the Labour MP Jake Richards up next live.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Renfrewshire, the A737 is closed each way between Howard and Johnston after an accident causing queues in both directions. On the M6 in Greater Manchester, there are 2 lanes closed northbound as a shed load between junctions 24 and 25 from Ashton and Makerfield to Bryn. Queues in both directions from junction 23 at Haydock and 26 at the Oral interchange. On the M56 in Cheshire, there are 2 lanes closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 12 and 11 from Runcorn to Preston Brook, with queues each way from junction 15 for the M53 and from junction 10 at Stretton. On the M1 in Leicestershire, there are 2 lanes closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 21A and 22 from the Leicester North turn to Ashby de la Zouche, causing delays. And on the M4 in London, the inside lanes closed westbound at junction 2 at Brentford where a car's broken down, with queues back along the A4 through Chiswick. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So it's like
going
a
live to the Labour
Party
Party conference, which is taking place in Liverpool. Let's go and speak to Jake Richards there. Jake is the MP for Rother Valley this morning. Jake, the winter fuel payments, are you getting much earache over that?
Look, it's a tough decision, and we're having tough conversations with people who disagree with that policy, but that's government. When you're in government, you sometimes have to make difficult decisions. You can't always be popular, and I support the decision the government is taking to try and deal with the public finances, get a grip of the economy so that we can get the economy growing and start to invest in public services, protect pensioners in the medium term and long term, and turn the country around.
Do you support it? I know that in your own constituency, numbers of pensioners have been protesting against it. They think that lives are going to be lost. All 5 of the major Labour-supporting unions have dubbed it cruel and even evil. So why are you supporting it? Do you want a job in government?
No, look, I'm a backbench MP. I support the government's decision. Look, the country is in a really difficult position. We have a huge black hole in the public finances, and to sort that out requires difficult decisions to be made. This is a difficult decision. Of course, the policy is to means test winter fuel allowance. That means that the poorest pensioners will still receive that payment this winter. I personally support means testing. I don't think it's right or fair that millionaires were getting this payment. I accept, though, that there are those just above the threshold who, for them, this is a difficult decision. But there is support available. There is the household support funds and other government funds available to support pensioners this winter, and no pensioner in my constituency should be going cold this winter.
You know, of all the policies you could introduce, I mean, you know, I look at your government, you see a socialist government, and you think they're there for the weak, they're there for the vulnerable, except you're not, and you must be being told that.
Well, Eamonn, I don't accept that for a number of reasons. This policy that we're discussing specifically looks after the most vulnerable pensioners. That's what this policy does. So the poorest pensioners will still receive the winter fuel allowance.
So all the trade
and the most
unions
important
are wrong,
way of
all
protecting
the charities are wrong that are speaking out against this?
The best way to protect pensioner income is by protecting the triple lock, and this government is committed to doing that. That means pensioners will be better off this year than last year, next year than this year. The state pension went up by £900 this year. It's going to go up by £460 next year. That is this government's priority, to protect the triple lock, to protect pensioner income, and that's what this government will do, and I support them in that endeavour.
Rishi Sunak has said a number of times that, yes, there are difficult decisions when you're in government, but this is a political choice that you have taken. You talk about this black hole, but you're happy to give a pay rise to £70,000 a year train drivers, and yet you're going to pickpocket pensioners, as many people see it. The Treasury just announcing an extra £10 billion of breathing space for you. You could choose to wipe all the savings, £1.5 billion, out with that easily, and yet you're still pursuing this, which will, as Eamonn says, single-handedly and disproportionately affect the most vulnerable.
Well, look, it's interesting that Rishi Sunak talks about political decisions, because the absolute disgrace of the last government was that they bucked all the difficult decisions in government. For the last 18 months, they failed to make difficult decisions about the economy. They promised projects when they didn't have the money to pay for them. That is why we are picking up this mess, because the last government, and in particular Rishi Sunak, both as Chancellor and then as Prime Minister, completely failed to get a grip of the public finances, to get a grip of our economy and make some of these difficult decisions. And that's why we're having to do that. And that's why Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer are doing that, and Rachel Reeves will be setting out more details on that later this afternoon.
What do you want to hear from Rachel Reeves at noon today?
Well, look, I think what we want to hear as a party and a country is, whilst, of course, I think most people accept that difficult decisions are going to have to be made, but there is a long-term vision for investment and growth, and things will get better. We're making these difficult decisions because we have to get stability in the economy, to get the public finances on an even keel, so that then we can get growth in the economy, so that we can raise living standards, so we can invest in public services again. And that is what this Labour government will do. And I think we'll be hearing much more from Rachel about, yes, some short-term difficult decisions, but in the medium and long term, where she and the Labour Party will take the country. And I think that's an exciting and positive vision that people can get excited about.
Jake, got to leave it there. Thanks for your time this morning. Jake Richards is the MP for Rother Valley.
Well, still to come, we're going to be joined by the Shadow Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury. That is Gareth Davies, standing by. We're doing that after the break? Yeah, we'll be right back with that in a sec.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
What prompted you to go on your incredible journey?
Well, you know, I was fighting my own demons at the time, you know, before I started the walk, and it had been a long journey, if you like. And, you know, I knew that I needed to make a change, and my daughter had just flown the nest. I was a single parent before this, and previous to that, I was ex-parachute regiment. And I knew that I needed to make a change, because if I didn't, I'm not sure where I would have been now, if that makes sense. So, yeah, something just came into my head at the very end of July and said, look, go and walk the UK coastline. And that's exactly what I did. And 6 years later, we've just finished.
You met your missus on the journey as well, didn't you? So truly, Chris, a transformative journey for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, you step into the unknown like that, you know, you have no idea how things are going to work out. You go out with so little expectation, but only really with the aim to, you know, for me personally, to come back feeling a lot better than what I was before I left. And that certainly succeeded. So everything that happened along that journey was one big learning curve. And I got to learn a lot about myself, a lot about, you know, the public and people. And yeah, it was just a life-changing transformation for me. And, you know, I learned so much, and I know what I want to do with the rest of my life as a result of it. And I met the most amazing people. And, you know, I worked hard. 6 years of carrying your house on your back isn't the easiest feat in the world, I can promise you that, but it was worth every single step because, I rescued a dog along the way. I met my now fiancée, Kate Barron, along the way, and we had a baby together along the way as well. So to start in the position that I did and then end up with all of that coming over the line with me was just something that I never expected, and I couldn't have dreamed it up, to be honest.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nikki and Dawn here to go through the stories in the papers. And, hey, big headlines. Strictly front page of The Sun, dance floored, lowest ratings for the first live show.
I know.
Saturday
Shocker.
night.
Shocker, absolutely. Yeah, ratings are down to, as you say, an all-time low, down year on year. They are 6.7 million viewers, the first live show, down from 7.3 million. Reasons are being suggested, the scandal going on behind it. They've lost 2 professional dancers over allegations that they were badly behaved. But I think the main reason potentially is the fact that the recent Ofcom report said that the number of young people watching TV in a traditional way has fallen from 76 to 48%. So I'm not necessarily so certain it's something strictly are doing wrong or right on this one. I think it's people aren't just watching traditional TV like they used to. It's not just affecting strictly
6.5 million for that time of night on Saturday, still very, very
It's
healthy.
still, yeah, absolutely it is. And, you know, the weather was pretty rubbish as well, so there were more people staying in watching TV, you would have thought. But there's been a lot of controversy. And it's the first year for a while there's been no same-sex dance partners.
Which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I find that odd.
I don't know why they've done that.
What? Give me that again, what? First year?
First year in a while, there's been no same-sex dance partners. They've either had 2 men dancing together or 2 women dancing.
But younger people care, Eamonn, that's the thing. Younger people will watch. Are more likely to watch.
They specifically want same-sex partners?
Well, they want... No. They want to watch a variety of people perform together. And so if that's cut, they'll question why. It is odd. Why is that?
No,
why has
that's
that been
exactly
cut?
what I don't want to watch. All these made-up pairings that go on there with a load of people you don't know who they are. I couldn't care less. If it was on in my back garden, I'd pull the blinds down.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people don't know who is in it for a start. I mean, there aren't any really big
But they use these YouTube stars and things now to try and attract a younger audience,
That's
right?
where they go wrong. They use YouTube people and influencers instead of blooming people that the public actually know.
Yeah, well, they've got a Love Island person called Tasha Guri. I don't know who she is. But she danced so well. It was difficult to tell which one was a professional dancer and which one was a wannabe.
Well, that seems to be the way, doesn't it, these days? Can we talk about organ donation, Nikki? I love this story. It's so fantastic that people kind of get to live on through their organs. I really think it should be opt-out rather than opt-in.
Well, I think it is opt-out now,
actually. Is it? Okay,
yeah,
good.
they have changed it recently. But actually, the fact that I mean, I didn't know before I read the report. I mean, there's a lot of confusion about the rules. And the other thing, though, is that a family can decline.
Yeah.
So your family can override your wishes, even if you are on the registry. It's important to say that only 1% of people who die in the UK have organs that can be transplanted.
Oh, right.
It's a tiny amount. And it works out about 100,000 lives saved a year from organ donation. It's really, really important. But there are lots of people waiting for a transplant.
I think that's an awful thing that you highlighted there, that you can have your wish, your desire, and your auntie or your uncle or whatever it is can overrule you.
Well, I imagine if you write it in your will, then it can't be overwritten, because then it becomes legal, right? But if it's just a wish and a card, then... And I completely agree with you. It really should be... The wishes of someone who's died should be honoured, shouldn't they? But I guess people are very squeamish still about this. And I think people get... I think one of the problems in this report, it says, is that it takes a very long time sometimes for the organ to be donated, which I imagine means it's a long time to have a body buried or cremated afterwards, and maybe that's what puts people off. So we probably need to speed that process
Really, I
up.
thought it had to be very quick because, for example, with a heart or whatever, it needs to be
It needs to be fresh,
instant.
but I don't know what. There must be some kind of delay in the time to do with the permissions. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to do. It's Organ Donation Week. This is why this report's here. I'm on the register. Anybody can have anything of mine when I go. So if it's any good,
I've said, and again, I need to check if the rules, but when it was opt out, I had opted in because my dear friend Emily has had 2 lung transplants, and actually her donor had donated 5 other organs that saved people's lives. But I've said you can take anything you want, but not my eyeballs. I don't know why.
That's a very common thing.
Funny about
that's a very
my
common
eyes.
thing, Isabel. That's the most common thing that people say.
They don't feel weird then.
Yeah, I guess because your eyes are so personal. They feel so personal.
Windows to your soul. You know? But I'll be dead, so I won't know anything better.
That's the point, isn't it? You're not really... Your heart's fairly personal
But
as well.
maybe you're dead and you can still get the vibes of what your eyeballs are seeing.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
You can have, like, joint vision.
Well, you do hear these stories about, for example, a French woman donating her heart and then the recipient of that heart waking up speaking fluent French.
No.
They're very rare, these stories, but you do get the odd story. But that didn't happen to my friend Emily. And actually, in fact, the donor's family loved hearing that it gave her a new lease of life. She was able to have a child, all of that.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
What do you make of this winter fuel payment thing? We were talking there at the Labour Party conference about this, and a guy firmly sticking up for it. I mean, it's indefensible, surely, really.
Yeah, and I actually don't believe he believed what he was saying there. I think he was sticking to the party line. So many backbench MPs, if you talk to them privately, will say, this is profoundly against everything I believe in. This is not what Labour should be doing. But we have so much pressure put on us by the higher-ups in the party that we have to toe the party line. I mean, the fact when they had the vote on it, so many backbench MPs abstained rather than voting against it. I think only 1 voted against it, didn't they?
Which is pretty cowardly, actually, I think. But I suppose they think, well, they don't want to lose their seats so quickly or their power so quickly.
They were being whipped.
I mean, as somebody who is traditionally a Labour voter and supporter, I cannot understand how they have got this so wrong. If you wanted to go after somebody for tax, for money straight away, go after tech giants, go after millionaires, billionaires, Amazon that pay 2%, 3%, 4% tax. It's so easy. Why go for vulnerable people? People that are perceived to be...
Labour?
Well, I just don't understand. I just don't get it.
And what makes it look particularly bad is the Cabinet accepting more than £800,000 in donations and freebies this year alone. I mean, and then they're sort of like, they're worried about their designer belts and everyone else is tightening their belt.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is not how a left-wing party is meant to operate.
And we said the same about the Conservatives when they were doing as well. It's hypocrisy that Labour are having a go at Tory, in particular Boris Johnson, about Wallpapergate and Curtain-gate, etc., and are doing the self-same thing.
And it is just really harmful to politics because it just turns people off.
Well, and that's the danger. Then people get... Exactly.
Yeah.
Why don't they just sell checkers and donate the money to the coffers that way? It's crumbling anyway.
Yeah, fair point.
I mean,
sell it to a billionaire.
All of these Grace and Favour houses.
Sell these
What a
houses.
hotel
You're
that would be.
Housing crisis.
If I was left wing, that's what I'd be doing.
Meanwhile, be careful where you stick your earbuds, Dawn.
Well,
there's a clue on the title, isn't there? Earbuds.
Yeah, earbuds aren't good for you, basically. They can cause you to go deaf.
So wait a minute, we're talking about the sort of things you get with these little tiny...
Yeah, the little tiny ones that go in your ears rather than the big
Rather than cotton buds.
Exactly. The reason they're bad for your ears because they let outside sound in as well. So the ear has trouble adjusting, and it gets a lot of excessive noise in there with the earphone thing and with the outside noise. Whereas if you wear the big headphones, they cancel the other noise and your ears cope better. There's not so much pressure on your ears. But basically, you're only meant to wear them for an hour at a time.
You just see people walking around all day with them.
I know.
Completely unable to communicate with you.
Yeah.
In the way, you know, on public transport, just being a complete nuisance. It's just take them out.
I always
for 2
think
minutes.
people are mad when they're having a phone conversation and there's no phone.
No.
Yeah, I know.
And it's always very weird. It's always quite weird.
You see mums doing it a lot at school pickup because they are juggling work and picking up the kids, and you're like, hi, and they're like talking, but not to you. It's really weird. I don't have any. I've never had any. I liked the old-fashioned and... I can't do speakerphone, but then it's obviously open to problems.
Well, I've literally just got some because I was doing speakerphone, and my conversations are not suitable for other people to see.
Your children, for example.
But the same will apply to the earpieces you wear when you're doing your job.
Oh, that's terrible for our hearing.
Yeah, they're terrible for
What?
Exactly.
I know, well, exactly. Nikki, can we talk about Donald Trump off to Mars?
Please, can he go already? I mean, we talk about Elon Musk and his race to Mars, how he can't wait to live up there. And I can't wait for him to go. But as my husband pointed out, they'll still have Wi-Fi from Mars, probably, because he'll make sure of that. What is it with these rich old men wanting to colonise other planets? Why don't you spend your money and time sorting this one out, please?
I totally agree. I look at all these projects and I think, of all the things you could be doing, think of the good you could be doing in the world.
Absolutely.
Think of our unexplored oceans and things that you could be
cleaning up the planet. Cleaning up the planet so we can live on it for the next few years instead of finding another one to wreck.
They don't care, do they? It's all about their ego. That's what it is. It's ego. It's, oh, look what I can do.
Explorer mindset.
Well, it has to be about money as well, Dawn, because these guys do nothing unless it's money's behind
Well,
it.
it's also about mining space. You know, there are loads of rocks and minerals that we need for, like, alloys and building all sorts of stuff here. So who gets to mine space is a thing. And space law, that has only just started to be invented. Who gets to govern
And then they get to
parts?
repopulate it or even populate it. That will be the bit they're
Well,
interested
Elon
in.
Musk will be fine with that. He's got loads of children, so it's all right.
But think about the mess that it's going to make of space.
Absolutely.
You know, we're bringing stuff back, mining stuff on Mars or the moon or whatever. I mean, what do you load it onto? What size of a container is it got to be?
And stuff will go missing in space and just float around for years.
Well, I just wouldn't fancy. We've got those 2 astronauts up there, went up there supposedly for a couple of weeks, and now out there for 6 months.
That'd be awful.
Yeah,
how much will that age them, Dawn? Because, you know, you talk about the impact of ageing up in space. It's crazy.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
I thought
Tim Peake looks... Bless him, he's a great guy.
It ages you. I thought it did the opposite.
No, really ages you going in space. So it damages your bones, damages your organs, and the wrinkles are crazy.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So if you stay longer...
Just the boredom. What do you do for 6 months? Unexpected 6 months. You're not mentally prepared for it.
Oh, no, I couldn't handle it. You could get married again. That's what Bjorn has done from ABBA, third time lucky.
Why would you... Yeah, take a chance on me. The headline in the Daily Mirror. Why would you? You're 79. You're a multi-millionaire.
Fallen in love.
Come on. This is
Why
the third
not?
time.
Don't be so cynical.
I'm a cynical as well.
I'm a tabloid journalist.
What,
It's
you think
literally
if
my
you've been
job.
married twice, you shouldn't get married again?
Well, I just think he's got loads... I mean, look, she's a lot younger than him. She used
30
to work...
years.
Yeah, she used to work for the record company that put his last album out. I can see what's in it for her. But one of the more interesting things is they were married by Sandy Toksvig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which she ordained or whatever she was doing.
Has she got the power to do that, or is that just a gimmick?
It's a humanitarian service.
Humanist?
Humanist, that's the one. Humanist, yeah.
You know, the funny thing
something
is...
like that.
You know,
Humanist aid work whilst they were at it, mankind.
Remember Carol Smiley from, I don't know...
Changing Rooms.
Changing Rooms, exactly.
The very one.
And she was on Strictly and things as well. Carol Smiley is now a minister of that sort. She can marry you.
It's a nice job. Nice thing to do for people.
I've married Charlie Lawson.
There you go.
But it wasn't legal.
Right, not literally married Charlie Lawson, but yes. Yeah.
Well, we don't know. It hasn't been revealed.
Well, I mean, anything's possible, isn't it? But obviously, he was famously married to Agnetha from ABBA. It was his first wife. And
the thing is, if it goes wrong the first time, why bother again? I'm not bothering.
Well, his second wife lasted 41 years.
Oh, well, that's quite a long time.
Yeah.
That might give you hope.
Yeah. But no, look, they look very happy. good luck to him. She was wearing a lovely khaki dress.
He looks very slim, I must say. He looks like he's been on the Ozempic. Did you think that as well?
Yeah, I did actually.
But as someone who has tried to play very badly some ABBA music on the piano, he is a musical genius.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it is so complex, his music, that I do respect him hugely.
I think the tunes are very good. I
They're amazing.
I think the words are awful, some of them, when you think, you know, take a chance on me, you know, and whatever.
Well, maybe they just seem like cliches now because we've heard them so often. Maybe at the time they felt really fresh.
I think it's great.
I love ABBA, I must admit.
And the lights are low.
I love it. Sing-along stuff.
That's still relevant.
It's still a karaoke hot
favourite.
Absolutely. But you do wonder what his children from the previous marriages are thinking as well.
I mean, really annoyed.
The second wife, he's got 2 grown-up children, are thinking, inheritance, Dad? You know?
But I think he settled with his ex-wife for 800 million. She got 800 million, I think, or something.
Oh, wow,
I think I read.
He's not short of a bob or two,
I mean,
then.
he shouldn't be, really. If you think the royalties, oh, my gosh, all the ABBA Voyage and whatever else it is, he is absolutely breaking it in.
So I can't honestly see what she saw in him. I mean, it must be love, obviously.
His wives all look the same.
He does have a type, doesn't he? He does like blonde. Mind you, she's Danish, and the other 2 were Swedish, so, I mean,
there is a big
blonde
difference.
is a big thing there, isn't it?
Very good. Guys, thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. How much longer do we keep going? Oh, about a minute. Oh,
well, we have a few views that we can look through. So we'll say goodbye to Nikki and Dawn. Thank you both for taking us through the papers today. Enjoyed it. So we've been talking about pubs, Pubmageddon, as some people have been describing it, talking about the numbers that have closed this year already. And Wayne says we have loads in Bristol. We have our community pubs and our football day pubs. We pay cheaper prices as they are subsidised in community centres.
Football day pubs. So the pub only opens for a day on football match day. Oh.
Esther says, come and visit Otley in West Yorkshire. Along with a lively community spirit, there is a good pub culture. Yes, there have been closures over the years, mainly the outlying ones, but also there have been a good number of refurbishments and new pubs in and around the town centre. So it seems like it's thriving in Yorkshire.
Jason says, look at the prices, £7 for a glass of wine. It's shame,
cheap
but
muck
just
for that too, he says. Yeah, you'll get a rubbish glass of wine for £7. Outrageous.
Miria says pubs should start offering tea and coffee for those who don't drink alcohol.
Good point.
No. There's nothing worse than being in a pub queuing when they're making a really complicated coffee. All you want is a bottle of beer.
That should be a separate queue for that.
Noise.
There's a lot of noise. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
All right. OK, we'll take a break.
Thanks,
back
guys.
after the weather. Let's have a look at it.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is your GB News weather report provided by the Met Office. We do have quite an unsettled week of weather to come, with most of us seeing rain at some point. But for Monday, it is Wales and England that are the focus point, with this area of low pressure across these regions. This will be bringing some very heavy pulses of rain around at times. The potential is certainly there for some localised flooding, disruption to services and very difficult driving conditions. So do take care over the course of the day. These will be mulling their way around, but we could see some slightly brighter spells developing across the far southeast later on in the afternoon. Temperatures here in that sunshine climbing to 21 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, it's a reasonably cool day, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. There is a broad yellow rain warning in force for much of England and Wales, but we do also have an enhanced amber rain warning also in force for parts of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, up towards the Wash and the Humber. This is where we could see over a month's worth of rain falling during the day, and some disruption is certainly likely here, so please do take care. Generally a cloudy day for Northern Ireland, a few sunny spells trying to poke their way through for Dumfries and Galloway, but we've got a band of rain pushing into the far north of Scotland, and they'll also be turning things fairly damp as it moves its way slowly southwards, with some brisk winds around at times as we head towards the end of the day on Monday also. For most of us overnight, it is going to be rather cloudy, that rain gradually pushing its way eastwards across eastern parts of England, and underneath that cloud, though, it will be still relatively mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, but we're starting to see some cooler, colder conditions moving into the far north of Scotland as northerly winds from the Arctic begin to push their way in. That rain will spread its way into other areas of Scotland during the day, but things will generally turn a bit calmer for Northern Ireland, England, Wales compared to what we will see today. A bit drier, but generally still rather cloudy. Any bright spells still fairly limited. starting to cool down for all of us now as those northerly winds set their way in, generally between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius. And that cooling trend will continue over the course of the next week, with temperatures dropping below average for many of us. Enjoy your day.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will tell the nation to accept hardship or face ruin.
She'll speak at noon, and that's as she gears up for the Labour conference in Liverpool in just a few hours.
And we'll be speaking to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, in just a few moments.
That's as the government faces a union rebellion over its winter fuel raid. We spoke with one MP earlier, forced to defend that decision.
This is a difficult decision. Of course, the policy is to means test winter fuel allowance. That means that the poorest pensioners will still receive that payment this winter.
A GB News exclusive for you this morning, as it's revealed 25,000 migrants have crossed the Channel since January, with some 12,000 coming since Labour took power.
Latest ban on lethal zombie knives starts today, but is it enough to keep us safe on the streets?
We've got an unsettled week of weather ahead of us, and an amber rain warning is already enforced across some areas today. So please do join me later for all the details.
Hello, very good to see you on this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. Our top story this morning, the shadow Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury. That's a heck of a title, isn't it? Gareth Davies is standing by to talk to us this morning. Joins us live from Westminster. Good morning to you. Sorry, I made a real meal of that. Look, there's plenty to talk to you about, and I wonder if I can start by talking about our GB News exclusive this morning, that 25,000 migrants have crossed the Channel since January, with 12,000 of those coming in since Labour took power. What are we going to do about this?
Well, in government, we had a clear plan, and that was to have a deterrent, which was our scheme to essentially send people to Rwanda. That has been scrapped by this Labour government, and so there is no deterrent in place. We argue that that is an absolute requirement if you're going to stop them getting on the boats in the first place.
Gareth, I'd love to talk to you about what you would do if you were in a position of power. These winter fuel payments, would you guys, and all the uproar that there is at the party conference for Labour on this, would you guys have scrapped these winter fuel payments?
No, this came up in interviews just before the election, and I was asked directly that question, and we ruled that out. We said that we wouldn't be doing that, particularly ahead of a cold winter, and particularly when it comes to what this is really all about, which is a political choice for the Labour government. They have chosen, on the one hand, to hand massive pay rises to the unions, while at the same time taking away support for pensioners ahead of winter. That is a political choice, as I say. That is not a choice that we would have made.
OK, but what would you have done about plug-in? Labour make much of this black hole in finances, this billions that would be there. What would you have done about that?
That's a very reasonable question, and I'll set out in two parts, if I may. The first is that we question the 22 billion. This was not in the estimates laid before the House by this very Chancellor, and the OBR provide transparency to opposition, to governments, to journalists, to everybody ahead of an election. And so the idea that this 22 billion has just come out of nowhere is quite well, I'll leave that to you and your viewers to question the Labour government, but we are certainly questioning the validity of that. But on the public finances, after the crisis in Ukraine and the energy price crisis and COVID, where we spent 400 billion, we've never shied away from the fact that public finances were being strained by the level of debt that we racked up as we've supported families and businesses. But we had a very clear plan, for example, to make savings on welfare, to crack down on tax avoidance. Labour have not taken those forward. What this is really all about is what they always wanted to do, and that's roll the pitch for tax rises which will come in the budget. They're now starting to admit that will harm growth, and I thought this government was all about growth. So that's what we would have done, and we're very concerned by this Labour government's proposals to, one, not carry forward the reforms that we put in place, but to then increase taxes on families and businesses.
Gareth, we've got to leave it there. Interviews coming in all the time. Gareth is the Shadow Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, Rachel Reeves is expected to today vow no return to austerity under a Labour government, but will admit that tough decisions have to be made if they are to deliver the change that they promise.
On this, joining us live now from Liverpool, we say hello, good morning to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones.
Yeah, good morning to you. I was reading over the weekend that you personally don't want just 1 or 2 terms in power, but 3, 4 or even 5. That equates to 25 years. That's a little bit optimistic, isn't it, given that your first conference in power has been completely overshadowed by Donergate and your popularity ratings is through the floor?
Look, I agree 5 terms was maybe a little aspirational. It was more theatrical flourish than mathematics. Although I would, in my defence, point out that under previous Labour administrations, elections are normally once every 4 years. And so 5 by 4, of course, is 20, not 25. You can see why I'm in the Treasury team. And we've had Conservative governments who have been in for 17 years and 14 years. So why not should we not aim for a longer term in office than once in a generation, which was the point I was making to conference yesterday.
Well, since you've got your Treasury hat on and you're keen to do some maths, can we talk about these winter fuel payments and also your insistence on adding VAT to private school fees, 2 policies which, for a socialist government, do affect the most vulnerable in society, the elderly, and also, as we know, children with special educational needs. The savings from that paltry when you consider that you've just been handed a £10 billion bit of headroom, breathing space from the Treasury. So why aren't you wiping off those policies that are hugely unpopular, even with the unions, when you've got this huge boost from the Bank of England, forgive me?
Well, a couple of things there. No, I understand, yeah. A couple of issues there. Look, when we came into office, we found this £22 billion black hole. These were bills that the previous government signed up to that were landing on the doorstep of the Treasury, and they had put no money aside to pay for them. We had to get a grip of that. We've got to reset public finances onto a sustainable footing so that we can start to invest in the change that we promised in our election. That's what you will hear from the Chancellor today.
Everyone can understand that argument, but you talked about putting that pressure on those with the broadest shoulders. But what I'm talking about is you trying to resolve these problems by going after pensioners and children with special educational needs.
That's not quite right. I mean, look, the VAT on private schools are private businesses which in the past have been given the cost of an exemption on VAT, even though they've put up their fees year after year. And of course, some private schools provide additional support for children with additional needs. And for those that have a education, health and care plan, they will be exempt from the VAT tax change. But we think it's right that But we think it's right that private schools pay VAT in the same way that other private businesses do, and that money goes into our state school system, where the majority of children go, but have had real terms cuts in many years to schooling in state school systems. So that's a decision that we made. It's in our manifesto. We were elected on that basis, and that's what we'll deliver.
Can we talk about free gear, Keir, and a number of your colleagues accepting these huge donors, whilst we are also talking about taking, support away from the most vulnerable? Are you comfortable with all of this overshadowing your conference?
Well, I would just say to remind your viewers, because I think it's important that they recognise it, the winter fuel payment means testing, means that the money we have is being given to those that need it the most. And if there are pensioners on low income who have not signed up for pension credit and therefore the winter fuel payment, we encourage them to come forward. We've put the money aside to give it to them, and they should talk to their local MP or councillors or community centres or give Age UK a call to make sure they sign up for that. But look, the bigger picture here is that you have to get a grip of public finances, which was lost under control under the last Tory government, because the public expect us to be responsible with their money. And once you've reset those foundations and got a grip, you can then start to prioritise investing in fixing the foundations and rebuilding Britain in line with all of the commitments we made in our manifesto and on the basis in which we were elected.
But you were also elected on this ticket of change change. And you can understand, can't you, where there are lots of people who have voted Labour, some of them for the first time, who are really disappointed, not only to see that the policies that you're pursuing don't seem particularly Labour policies, even 5 of the major unions voting today, bringing that vote forward to try and get you to reverse this policy, but also because of all of this donor-gate, because of the fact that the Prime Minister doesn't want to pay for his own clothes. I know he said he's going to change that, but Rachel Reeves, we were talking about this earlier, giving a big keynote speech today, filing £7,500 in donations towards clothes as office expenses. Well, if I charged my clothes as office expenses, HMRC would be having none of that. Why is it one rule for you lot and another rule for the rest of us?
So look, parties in opposition, as the Conservative Party will now find out, rely on political donations to fund their activities. That's the way it works in this country. We don't fund opposition parties beyond some funding for their parliamentary duties. And Rachel Reeves, for example, the Chancellor, took a donation from a close friend of hers because she was on the road, away from home for long periods of time during the election campaign, doing multiple stops a day. And so her friend helped contribute to the cost of doing that. And she's been very clear this morning and previously that that was an election campaign cost. She doesn't need that now that we're in government and that she's in the day job as Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is why that's not going forward.
I just can't get past the fact that this was filed as an office expense. Are clothes an office expense? Or as you're saying, are they actually an election expense? There's a big difference.
No, so let's just be very clear. This is not funded by parliamentary budgets. It's not funded by ministerial budgets. This was a donation from a friend to the Chancellor to help cover the cost that she incurred performing her duties as Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer during the election campaign when she was on the road around the country. This happens all the time for parties in opposition. That's how they fund their activities. And it was declared in the proper way. That's why you can see it. That's why it was transparently reported, which I might say is very different to the undercover work that journalists had to do to reveal the parties in number 10 under the last government and these crony contracts that were given out during the COVID period to friends and donors of the Conservative Party. That was very, very different.
Sorry, just to pick up on that, just because this isn't taxpayers' money doesn't mean that you don't have to declare it accurately. You know, transparency, as you say, absolutely key here. Alicia Kearns yesterday, Shadow Foreign Minister, saying that Labour offered a government of service. All they've shown is a government of self-service with latent efforts to mislead. Office costs turn out to be closed. That's in relation to the Chancellor. And a holiday for one is a romantic getaway for two. And that was the Deputy Prime Minister not declaring that she was taking her ex-boyfriend to New York at the expense of Lord Ali.
Look, as I say, office costs in opposition is around the running of the office of, for example, my boss, the Shadow Chancellor. There are lots of costs involved in that. You might hire staff, you might commission research, you might print publications, you might have travel costs when you go around the country. And in these circumstances, as I say, when Rachel was away from home for a long period of time, that included the clothing that she had on the campaign trail. But the important point is all of that was declared in line with the rules. There's no suggestion that this is a breach of the rules. It's perfectly transparent in the way it's been declared. And now that the election campaign has finished and we are in office, we're focusing on delivering the change that we promised at this election, getting a grip of the public finances and investing in the future. And as you would imagine, Rachel's gone back to normal practice because she's not on the election trail anymore.
Darren, you're looking very well this morning. Anything you'd like to declare to us?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited for the Chancellor's speech. You're going to hear us set out today how we are on the path to change. We're going to invest in our country to fix the foundations and rebuild Britain. And I think after 14 years of chaos from the Conservatives, your viewers will be as excited as I am about seeing that unfold.
And you can confirm that is your own tie?
Yes, it's quite old, actually. I probably need to buy some new ones, but that's for another day.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Darren Jones is the Chief Secretary to the Treasury at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Oh, dear. Right, there's still plenty of time to win an incredible £36,000 in our Great British Giveaway. It is our greatest giveaway so far this year. OK, it's an extra £3,000 a month in your bank account. It could be your bank account. Have a go.
There's an incredible £36,000 to be won in the Great British Giveaway. That's like having an extra £3,000 each month to play with. And because it's totally tax-free, you get to keep every penny and spend it however you like. We could be paying for your entire year until 2025. How amazing would that be? For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH.
Now, how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth. Available at gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Would you have Harry back with open arms? And this is Ian. Hi, Ian. Harry is unfortunately not well. His emotional wreck. Ian, you actually took the words out of my mouth. I remember when I was younger, queuing up for hours for West Ham tickets. I'm that sad. But at least I got the ticket. It was my ticket. They knew it was me, and there were no touts involved. It's Forever says Harry can stay away. He was so quick to condemn this country as racist and to trash the Queen and royal family's reputations. He should be banished and his titles removed. He has not earned the right to call himself anything with a royal title. Ooh, passionate. Since moving to the US with Meghan, the American dream has had a number of issues for him, I think it's fair to say. But if Harry was to return, would he be welcome? And could he make it up with William? Look, if Oasis, sorry I said the O word, have done it, can William and Harry?
Well, I think it's going to present a lot of challenges. I mean, I've got to be clear here. When it comes to reconciliation, if it's possible, obviously, to mend the rift with William, clearly that is to be welcomed. But as for Harry returning, what precisely would that mean? What precisely would Harry want? Because if it is in any sense a return to royal duties, you really got to be very, very careful with what you're dealing with. As far as the royal family are concerned, for goodness sake, reconciliation, yes, but actual work as a senior working royal is not, in my opinion.
So I always think it's quite funny listening to serious people talk seriously about the royals, because it's not that serious, a lot of it. But actually, I think where I'm fascinated by them is that we can sort of see a bit of ourselves as a society and as individuals.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This migrant news that we've got for you exclusively this morning, 25,000 migrants crossing the Channel. That is just so far this year, half of those in the 11 weeks since Labour took power. Let's get more on this. Mark White, our Home and Security editor, with the fine detail on all of this. It's quite shocking, Mark. I mean, is this to do with weather, or is this to do with political policy, messages being sent out? What?
This is, in spite of the weather conditions, we are seeing very significant numbers still coming across the Channel. We've got some exclusive images we can show you out in the middle of the Channel of one of these small boats that came across yesterday, absolutely full to the gunwales of migrants, and not far from a P&O ferry as it's making its way to UK waters. And on Saturday, 707 migrants crossed the Channel in 11 small boats. Our Kent producer down in Dover counted well over 700 arriving yesterday, and that total takes us to that grim milestone, as you mentioned in the introduction there, Eamonn, of 25,000 who've crossed so far this year. And that means that we only need another 4,000 or so, and we've actually surpassed the total for the whole of last year, and yet we've still got 3.5 months, well, just under 3.5 months of the year still to run. And it's worth noting as well that almost half of those who crossed in just 11 weeks since Labour came to power.
Well, what could be done that is not being done? What sudden, vision should appear before people and say we could stop this in this way? Is there anything that could be done about this?
Well, the Conservatives certainly believed that they had a vision, and that was the Rwanda deterrence scheme. It never, of course, got off the ground in terms of being constantly delayed by court action. But according to the Tories, they were going to get the first flights off the ground just a week after the general election. We'll never know if that policy would have provided the deterrence they believed that it would, because Keir Starmer scrapped the Rwanda scheme the second he got into office, and instead his solution is to go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gangs, as he said. But that will be a very long process to try to dismantle these very organised criminal networks that are making sometimes millions of pounds in just one good week in the Channel. And I mean, they have been carrying out enforcement action. Just over the weekend, we saw 31 arrests in coordinated operations in Liverpool, in Luton, in Belfast, and in other locations in the UK, aimed at going after those involved in people smuggling. But to be fair to the previous government, these kind of operations were happening all the time under the previous government as well.
I'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Britain's newsroom is fast approaching us at 9:30, and today we have Bev with us here in the studio, and Andrew Pearce will be joining us a little bit later on, we think, from conference.
Yeah, I think so. He's in Liverpool. He's going to be rounding up lots of guests from the Labour Party this morning. There he is. Morning, Andrew. I don't know whether you can hear us.
Hello.
Good morning.
I can.
Morning.
How are you?
Who have you got lined up?
Well, we're talking to a trade union leader from the National Education Union. He's never been on GB News, I don't think, before. Some MPs, and I don't think the chance of the Exchequer's coming on, because I just had a rather icy conversation with her, Rachel Reeves, because, of course, her big speech today is overshadowed by the trade union motion to try and have the winter fuel policy thrown out. And I suspect the vote will go in the union's favour, which would be a huge embarrassment for Labour. This should be a really triumphal start to a Labour conference, the first Labour conference as governing party since 2009, but I'm afraid it's been knocked off course by winter fuel and also the rows over sleaze and cronyism.
Andrew's going to be in Liverpool, and then also we're going to be talking in the studio this morning two issues which I think affect a lot of people at home: a lack of tradespeople. Where are all the builders, the plumbers, the electricians? We're going to be talking about
at university.
A huge lack of people to renovate our houses, and also more than 50 pubs a month in the first 6 months of this year. Pubs closing down. Two kind of big, meaty human interest stories for people at home. And also a massive storm. Apparently it's a mega storm. I don't know.
What was it like coming in for you this morning? But there was so much standing water. And again, London, I don't know what it's like in Liverpool, Andrew, but London has been underwater, and obviously wet right across the country.
Yeah, yes. It was the same for me.
It's very wet and it's a bit chilly.
Yeah, it was the same driving in this morning. But you see, the roads are flooded, but the grids are blocked. So I was watching cyclists who've all been encouraged to leave their cars behind and get on their bikes, trying to negotiate these enormous kind of waterways on the road on the way in. And when you actually look at the grids, the water's not draining away because no one's dredged them. So Andrew and I will be here to bring you all the latest this morning.
Of course, it's that worst time of the year where it's autumn, leaves are falling, and all the drains are clogged up.
Yeah, it's early though, isn't it? It's not even like bad for the winter. Half the leaves are still on the trees. Looking forward to the programme, Bev. Thank you, and have a good one, Andrew, as well. We'll be back bright and early from 6 o'clock. I don't know how bright it will be, but it will be early.
Well, we'll be here. We'll be here bright and early. Thanks very much for your time today. Here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is your GB News weather report provided by the Met Office. We do have quite an unsettled week of weather to come, with most of us seeing rain at some point. But for Monday, it is Wales and England that are the focus point, with this area of low pressure across these regions. This will be bringing some very heavy pulses of rain around at times. The potential is certainly there for some localised flooding, disruption to services and very difficult driving conditions. So do take care over the course of the day. Those will be mulling their way around, but we could see some slightly brighter spells developing across the far southeast later on in the afternoon. Temperatures here in that sunshine climbing to 21 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, it's a reasonably cool day, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. There is a broad yellow rain warning in force for much of England and Wales, but we do also have an enhanced amber rain warning also in force for parts of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, up towards the Wash and the Humber. This is where we could see over a month's worth of rain falling during the day, and some disruption is certainly likely here, so please do take care. Generally a cloudy day for Northern Ireland, a few sunny spells trying to poke their way through for Dumfries and Galloway, but we've got a band of rain pushing into the far north of Scotland, and they'll also be turning things fairly damp as it moves its way slowly southwards, with some brisk winds around at times as we head towards the end of the day on Monday also. For most of us overnight, it is going to be rather cloudy, that rain gradually pushing its way eastwards across eastern parts of England, and underneath that cloud though it will be still relatively mild, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, but we're starting to see some cooler, colder conditions moving into the far north of Scotland as northerly winds from the Arctic begin to push their way in. That rain will spread its way into other areas of Scotland during the day, but things will generally turn a bit calmer for Northern Ireland, England, Wales compared to what we will see today. A bit drier, but generally still rather cloudy, any bright spells still fairly limited. Starting to cool down for all of us now as those northerly winds set their way in, generally between 10 and 18 degrees Celsius, and that cooling trend will continue over the course of the next week, with temperatures dropping below average for many of us. Enjoy your day.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Renfrewshire, the A737 is closed each way between Howard and Johnston after an accident. On the M2 towards Belfast, there's an accident at junction 5 at Temple Patrick, causing delays. On the M1 heading into Belfast, the outside lane's closed just after junction 3 at Dunmurray after an accident with queues from junction 7 south of Lisbon. On the M6 in Greater Manchester, 2 lanes are closed northbound with a shed load between junctions 24 and 25. North of Ashton and Makerfield, there are queues from junction 22 at Newton and Willows. On the M1 in Leicestershire, there are 2 lanes closed northbound. There's a breakdown between junctions 21A and 22 from Leicester North to Ashby-le-Zouch, causing queues. On the A1M in Hertfordshire, there are 2 lanes closed southbound where cars overturn between junctions 9 and 8 from Letchworth to Stevenage, causing delays. In Hampshire, the A303 is closed eastbound and over after an accident, causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
EasyJet is launching a new recruitment drive focused on attracting cabin crew members over 50 and those even considering retirement.
Well, the initiative is called Returnships and it's inspired by research that suggests that 75% of people over 50 years old believe that now is the ideal time to embark on a new career.